Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining us as we gather together to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, some television stuff as well, all sorts of good things. And joining me here, of course, on this glorious Tuesday is the glorious, the all-victorious Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. You know, Tuesday is physical media release day, John.
That's true, it is.
And you know what came out today?
Let me guess.
No, you're not going to guess.
Nah, I'll never guess.
Space Battleship Yamato 2202, Part 2, the second part of the second season of one of my favorite animes of all time. And boy, am I excited.
I love Space Battleship Yamato, aka Star Blazers. I love that. I really still want. I know they did. I know there was an Asian live action. I saw it. It's not that good.
Yeah, I know, it's disappointing.
I really want to see a North American live action version of that very, very badly. I had an interesting night last night.
You went to Monday Night Football, right?
I did. I got to first time ever I've gone to a Monday Night Football game, and I'm very lucky about certain people who watch my show and then offer me stuff. So Ann and I got to go. We sat on the 20-yard line, front row. It was us and then the field. And we got to watch, I think, the eventual Super Bowl champions this year. I'll just tell you, I don't see anybody beating the Baltimore Ravens right now.
I do.
Who?
Come on, my man, Russell Wilson, the Jedi Knights of the Pacific Northwest.
It is not going to be the Seahawks.
We'll see.
And it is not going to be the New England Patriots. It's going to be the Ravens, period. And I got to watch this kid, Jackson. Wow. This dude... I don't know that he's going to have a long career, and I don't know that he's going to have continued success. Remember, RG3 came out of nowhere, but right now, there ain't nobody balling like this kid. And I got to sat there front row and watch this kid last night. Watch him stomp the hometown team we were cheering for, the LA Rams, is stomp last. But anyway, that was my night last night. Anyway, guys, we're here to talk about movies and movie news and all sorts of good things. And we do have a lot of things we're going to talk about here today. I wonder if anybody was kind of saying just last week, you know what, I think they're going to delay this Godzilla King Kong movie. Well, it turns out they did. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We are hearing that there's a movie theater chain in the UK that decided to suspend screenings of another movie, of a movie, because violence broke out at one. We're going to talk about that and get a little bit more in depth into that in just a little bit as well. Also, the producer of Black Adam is saying, guess what? We might see Superman in the Black Adam movie. Is that really a thing? We'll get to all that in just a little bit. But before we do, we got a couple things to talk about here off the top. And the first thing we're going to talk about off the top is this. Now, we know that there is a Batman movie coming from Matt Reeves.
No.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know if you heard breaking news. Just 3 years ago, they announced it. Matt Reeves has got this movie coming. We also have the Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, or we might as well just call it the Harley Quinn movie, because we all know it's just a Harley Quinn movie. Anyway, but with the success of Joker and things like that, there's an interesting article that came out in Variety. And we'll get to a lot of the details in this Variety article, but one of the things that they mentioned in this Variety article is that Warner Brothers had the foresight to sign, and this is pretty standard for most comic book movies, to sign the key villains in these films to multiple film deals because they have an eye at maybe doing spin-off movies of these villains. Not origin stories like Joker, but perhaps doing spin-off. Now, this is in a Variety article. Right there at the top, it says, there had been chatter that the entire Batman film would unfold in Arkham Asylum, the high-security prison known to comic book fans for housing super criminals, but that is not the case, according to insiders. Only a handful of scenes will be set at Arkham. If the movie works, Warner Brothers and DC believe that any of these villains could headline their own spin-off movies. Key cast members in both The Batman and Birds of Prey have contract options to appear in sequels and, here's the key word, standalone movies. In sequels and standalone movies. Now, Rob, one of the things that we know is that signing cast members in comic book movies to multi-film deals, that's standard operating procedure. Even if they never use them again,
that's right,
they always sign them to multiple film deals. But according to this report, Warner Brothers did so this time around with the eye that possibly we could do standalones. Now, this is different from the Joker situation, which is its own isolated universe with an origin story one. They could be looking at a Catwoman movie, hopefully better than the Halle Berry one. They could be looking at, maybe a Carmine Falcone standalone gangster movie or anything like that. Now, they're not getting ahead of themselves. They're just saying, you know what? We want to leave these options open to us, so let's sign all the deals that we need to have these avenues open to us a little bit down the road. Rob, 2 separate questions for you. Number 1, do you think we will see spin-off films of these characters that we're going to get in the Batman movie and possibly the Harley Quinn movie? And number 2, is this something that Warner Brothers is getting ahead of themselves, or is this just good foresight? How do you see this?
Well, first of all, no, I see it as good business, good foresight. They're taking a totally different tact than the MCU. And I think that's great. I think it's been proven. You've got now, even though Shazam might have not made as much money as they wanted, they didn't expect it to make $1 billion. So you have Wonder Woman, you have Aquaman, now you have Joker, and you have Shazam. To me, that's 4 for 4, with varying degrees of success. They've changed their tact. And the idea that if you have a fan favorite villain, if what happened to Heath Ledger, which was so unfortunate, didn't happen, wouldn't you have loved to have seen a movie just about Heath Ledger's Joker?
Would have been interesting.
I think it's the smart play. I think it's really interesting. They're being smart. They're leaving their options open. And if you get the Harley Quinn breakout performance that they got from Margot Robbie out of Suicide Squad, why not open it up and say, hey, we can have one villain or a couple of these villains, team them up. This is not something that's unprecedented in the comics. So why not do it? I think it's good business. It's actually kind of exciting because now you're going to be looking on all these villain characters in a different light. Like, wow, I hope they make a movie about this person. So could be cool.
The one thing that makes me nervous a little bit, and I think this is good business. I think they're laying good groundwork. And I think, listen, if a couple of these characters in these movies really hit it with the audience, why not have an avenue open to you to pursue something? The one thing that makes me a little bit nervous, though, Rob, is the fact that, and it comes back to this, and we've been talking about this for a while, they still are targeting, they haven't had a lot of movement, but they're still targeting an Aquaman spin-off movie on the Trench.
Yeah.
And to me, what that reeks of is, ooh, Aquaman worked. Quick, let's do something else related to the Aquaman movie. It's
right.
Like nobody's asking for a Trench movie. And it just, that's the one thing that makes me a little bit worried. And so I'm a little bit worried about, if they do this Batman movie and it's like, wow, Batman made $1 billion, assuming it makes $1 billion, it may or may not, but let's say it does. Quick, we need to do every sort of offshoot from Batman that we can. Now, look, that's not saying that if they do move forward, say with a Zoe Kravitz Catwoman standalone movie, that's the result. I'm just saying, I just hope that if they do move forward with this, it'll be for the right reasons. Because I think, you know what? We have an incredible narrative path that a couple of these characters can take, and we feel like we need to explore them rather than, Aquaman made $1 billion. Quick, what can we spin off from Aquaman? Quick, you know what I mean? And so that's the only thing that do you have any fear of that, or do you think they're going to insulate themselves?
I think you're absolutely correct about that. And, everybody wants to, everybody thinks, not everybody, but in Hollywood, they have a tendency to think that if one thing works, then something else will work too. Hey, we made a Batman villain movie that made $1 billion. Let's make another Batman villain movie. That'll make $1 billion. No. That kind of thinking, you never will win that way. No one in Hollywood ever got rich following a trend. You only get rich setting trends. And of course, Hollywood wants to be risk averse, so nobody wants to make those leaps. So they're always trying to follow up success with like-minded or similar kinds of success, which I get. But when you're talking about the Joker movie, that, I hope, set a bar. That was a film that we talked about how it moved beyond its comic book origins. It talked about the one percenters. It talked about healthcare. It talked about all of these things that Arthur Fleck was going through that so is the audience. They related to it beyond a comic book villain movie. And unless you can make a film that isn't just about a comic book villain, like, woo, we'll see how they do with Harley Quinn. We'll see how that works. But I think if you're going to do that, you have to have, like every movie, great characters and a great story. Because if you put your success in front of those things, you'll never win. Now, I'm saying it's great that they have the option, but now with Joker, they've set the bar. Now everyone's going to be like, well, if you're going to make a DC villain movie, it's got to make $1 billion. And that's a very, very hard thing to do.
Yeah, and a little bit unrealistic and unfair. It's unfair.
A
movie does not need to make $1 billion to be a huge success. Wonder Woman was a huge freaking success, and it didn't get close to $1 billion. And it was a huge monster success. But you're right about, people think that, oh, this sort of thing worked? Do the exact same sort of thing. Because look what happened when Deadpool came out. When everybody was like, see, R-rated comic book movies will make huge money. It's like, yeah, but you're conveniently forgetting right now that they did about 10 R-rated comic book movies before and they all flopped. So it's not that one thing automatically equals that anything like it will have equal or greater success.
Well, everybody's always trying to, like, they think, okay, an R-rated comic book movie, that's a huge blanket. You know, Deadpool was one specific character teamed with one actor and teamed with one director who knew how to make the most out of a $65 million budget. That is a very rare mix. And yet everyone's like, wow, they look at the results and think that's really easy to do.
Make every movie R-rated, every comic book. Yeah, I know. But that's what we do, right? That's kind of what we do. And it's what the studios also do sometimes. Question here is, guys, what do you think about Warner Brothers laying the groundwork for setting up possibly spin-off films from Batman? Are they getting a little bit ahead of themselves? Do you think maybe like me that no, this is just good planning? How do you guys feel about it? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, one more thing to get to off the top, and I hate myself a little bit more every time we have to talk about this stupid topic. But it's come up again, so we're going to talk about it again, and hopefully this will be the end of it.
Oh, it won't be.
Oh, Snyder Cut! Everybody, woo! I know everybody was excited for us to talk about the Snyder Cut again. F my life. Snyder Cut. Snyder Cut. Okay. So just a little bit of background on where we've been up until now. There have been a lot of people. First of all, everybody understands there is something that we call the Snyder Cut that exists. Everybody knows that. Like, Zack Snyder has a assembled cut of his movie, the way he would have done it, from all the stuff that he shot, that is assembled together into what you can call the Snyder Cut, that some people, like Jason Momoa and others, have watched.
By the way, he's said multiple cuts.
Oh, yes, he said, I have many cuts of this film. That's what Zack Snyder said. We all understand this. Everybody agrees, nobody denies that there are apples in the bag, right? We've talked about the apples in the bag and the watermelon in the bag. We all have understood for ages there's apples in the bag. There, however, have been many, many, many people who, despite all evidence and all logic, insist that there is a 100% fully sound engineered, music mixed, color corrected, visual effects completed, score overlaid, ADR, Foley completed, with all the Foley art at 100% ready to be released film in theaters today if they would just release it. And that's the watermelon. So some kind of an assembled cut, that's the apples in the bag. We all agree there are apples in the bag. But the watermelon, there ain't no watermelon in the bag. But there are so many people that insist that yes, there is, and no, there's not. And we've heard repeatedly, even Zack Snyder himself from the stage of a convention once said, it would be up to Warner Brothers to finish. Well, two things have happened in the last couple of days. Now, on top of all that, and with Jason Momoa and Ben Affleck and all that kind of stuff come out and saying, release the Snyder Cut, there has been some speculation, Rob, even on this show, that, I don't know, maybe Warner Brothers at some points uses HBO Max. And they'll take whatever it is that they do have, that Snyder does have complete, maybe they put it out on HBO Max, and there's been a lot of talk and discussion about that, perhaps. Well, two things have happened in the last 24 hours or so that seem to put that to bed. Not that facts and evidence ever put anything to bed, but here we are again. Number one, the composer of Justice League, Danny Elfman, has come out and said he never finished. Danny Elfman has come out and said he's never finished. Now, you can go and read his specific comments yourself, but basically he said he never finished. So the composer of the film himself came out and said wasn't finished. But now Variety has spoken to people at Warner Brothers. All right? And this was a subtext of another article, but Variety has spoken to people at Warner Brothers about, the Snyder Cut, could it be released on HBO Max, all this kind of stuff. And this is what they're saying their Warner Brothers connections are telling them. This is from Variety. The launch of HBO Max has inspired some hopes that Warner Brothers might allow Zack Snyder to release a director's cut of the Justice League, leading to a social media campaign dubbed Release the Snyder Cut. Logistically, however, there is little appetite at the studio for spending the millions of dollars that it would require to finish visual effects and editing work on the Snyder version, particularly as the Justice League was a commercial disaster. I don't know that I would call it a disaster. I think it completely underperformed, but I don't know. It made over $600 million. I don't know that I would call it a disaster. There are currently, this is the key part, there are currently no plans to release a Snyder version either in theaters or on HBO Max. So, what this seems to confirm for the 43rd time is that no such Snyder cut that is actually ready to be released version exists. We all acknowledge there are apples in the bag. We know that. That's a fact. But no such version that is just, let's just release it. That version does not exist. So they have once again confirmed that. Danny Elfman has pretty much confirmed that. The interesting thing here, though, Rob, that is a little bit of a spin, because we've talked on this show before that like maybe they could take whatever it is that's done, whatever apples are in the bag, and just put it out on HBO Max. That could be an interesting kind of, bell. Ding, ding, ding. Listen, look, everybody, come over here and check out HBO Max. That could be an interesting little bell, maybe. We thought about that could be a possibility that they could do. But they're saying there's not even any plans to do that. So, Rob, let me ask you this. Considering that there are apples in the bag, considering that, Zack Snyder does have this cut of his film, is there an argument to be made here that, well, without putting anything more into it, and treat it as a behind-the-scenes sneak peek, is there an argument to be made that maybe there's some benefit here to just take it as it is and put it as maybe even a feature on HBO Max? Or do you think it's the right thing for them to just say, nope, we're not even going to put it on HBO Max? How do you approach that?
Well, one thing, admittedly, my career has mostly been in low-budget movies, but I know for a fact, I've worked on so many films where you tell people that, listen, what you're about to see is an unfinished version of the movie. And you show it, you tell them that it's not color corrected, there's certain visual effects, there's certain sound effects, and you'll show the movie to people, to a learned audience of people that work in the industry. And if there's a scene where a phone, like someone's cell phone, they answer their cell phone, but there's no ring because you haven't put in the cell phone ring yet, the one thing people will say when the lights come up, they're going to be like, hey, there's that scene where the character answers the phone, there's no ring there. You're going to put the ring in the phone eventually, aren't you? And that'll be the only thing in the movie that it wasn't quite. That's the first thing people notice. You release a movie that's full of green screen shots, that's full of wires that the characters are floating on. People are going to look at this and go, why'd you do this? Why couldn't you finish it? There is a fundamental lack of understanding of the process of filmmaking, especially around the idea of this Snyder cut. People believe, I heard that it was done. So-and-so saw it. No, they didn't. And people are, I got attacked on Twitter talking about this. I did it on my own show, and people have a fundamental lack of understanding about the process of movie making, especially when it comes to this. And especially because you and I love Man of Steel, and I even like the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman. Why people that have not been Man of Steel fans and have not been Batman v Superman fans, why do they want this Snyder cut so badly? Why do they want to believe? But no, I think releasing an unfinished version of this movie would actually make people even more angry, because they'd be like, why didn't you finish this? Because they don't understand how much things cost or how they're done.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second then. What about the notion of, because look, we look at Endgame, right? We watch Endgame. And when we're on Disney Plus, or before Disney Plus came out, when I'm on my Google Play watching my copy of it, and it gives me the options for look at special features, and it'll show me the deleted scenes. And those deleted scenes will often not have completed effects or completed audio or whatever. But I consider it a value add that I get to go in and watch those things. Mm-hmm. What about the idea of when HBO Max launches, and I know they've already said they have no plans to do this. I'm just saying, again, devil's advocate. What if they say, you know what? When we put up Justice League on HBO Max, listed amongst the special features will be #Snyder Cut unfinished version.
Work in progress.
Work in progress. Because when we look at the special bonus materials on movies, I think we as an audience, we come into it with an expectation that we're going to see greens, because you're absolutely right about your observations. But I think when we watch special features, we understand we're going to see some wires. We understand there's going to be some audio missing. We understand there's going to be some green screen or not finished effects or a guy walking around in a gray suit with white ping pong balls all over him. I think we understand that. Do you think maybe there could be some benefit to HBO Max launching Justice League, now playing HBO Max, with a special feature attached to it? If you go into the special features, watch Work in Progress, #Snyder Cut, do you think that could maybe solve the problem of audiences going, why wasn't that there? And maybe, do you think that could add a little bit of a marketing boost for HBO Max? Say, hey, you might all want to come up and sign up for HBO Max to check this out. I don't know. Do you see some advantage to that, or do you just see that adding more problems?
Well, as a filmmaker, I would certainly stand down. Zack Snyder said he has a 214-minute cut of Justice League. Now, I know it's probably not nearly finished. I would certainly watch that, John. I'd be all over that. Would the actors be keen on that? Once you have a finished film, like an Endgame, and it's done what it's done, you can do whatever you want. I mean, that whole scene on Vormir where Thanos attacks Hawkeye and Black Widow as they're trying to get the Soul Stone, that's incredible. That's almost a finished scene. And that's not even in the movie. But I think in the case of the Snyder Cut, what people really want, they'll watch a deleted scene here and there with green screen or unfinished effects. But when you start watching 5 minutes and 10 minutes and 20 minutes or half a movie that is unfinished, I don't think it's going to satisfy anybody. I don't think the actors would be pleased with that, because it's really hard for people outside the motion picture industry. Hell, it's even hard for people inside the motion picture industry to watch something unfinished without bumping on it. And look, I would love to see it, because I'd be like, wow, that could have been a really great movie. Why didn't they release that? But I think in the long run, I don't know if it would benefit the filmmakers, the actors, everybody that worked on the film, the studio, and the fans. I think the fans it would just piss them off more, because then they'd be like, why don't you finish this? Finish this movie.
Yeah, we would go from #release the Snyder Cut to #finish the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, and there's just this fundamental lack of understanding, and I don't mean to insult anybody, but there is a filmmaking process that has been going on for 100 years that I don't think a lot of people really quite, as much as we know about movies, we only know about movies as much as we know when we watch. You can watch all the special features and read all the issues of Cinefex and whatever, an American cinematographer, and think you know. But unless you've actually sat in a screening room and watched various iterations of movies, you don't really know what watching an unfinished movie can be like.
All right, question here is this. Do you think this information will put an end to, or at least get everybody on the same page as far as the discussion of what the Snyder Cut is and what it is not? Do you see some, like me, do you think maybe there could be some advantages to adding it as a bonus feature on Justice League on HBO Max? Do you agree with Rob that, listen, it just, people would not be able, you could say that theoretically, but it would just cause more problems? There's a lot of possibilities here. How do you guys see all this? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts, and let us all pray that we never have to talk about this stupid topic again. All right, let's now move on, guys, to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, you see, it's really rather simple. You guys come up with them by simply going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. That down? Let's move on to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Yuri D, who writes, "Greetings and salutations. With Oscar season upon us soon, and with the growing specializations between genres," ooh, I like that, "do you think there would be any merit in the Oscars having categories for best horror, best comedy, best drama, best animated, best thriller, etc., and then take the winners of those categories and announce at the end the grand best picture winner? Bodybuilding has done something similar. What do you think?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, Yuri. And just what is he talking about? Bodybuilding has done this. Okay, so in the world of bodybuilding, and I can't remember if they did this only at like Mr. Olympia or whatever, but you would have different weight divisions for bodybuilding competitions, right? Because you get some guys that are like 300 pounds, some guys are 140 pounds, so you have different weight divisions. But what they would often do is each weight division at a bodybuilding competition would be, there would be a winner declared of each division. And then at the end of the night, all of the winners from their divisions get on stage for a big pose down, from the lightest guy to the biggest guy, for this ultimate pose down, and then one grand champion would kind of be pronounced and announced. The idea here that Yuri is putting forth is not unique. Other people have suggested this too, and the idea is basically this. There does seem to be more and more lines being drawn and more of a gap in the specialization, I like how we put that, between the genres. Horror films are more clearly horror films these days, even when they're cross-genre. Comedies, thrillers, dramas, period pieces. The notion of, what if we had like 6 categories, 7 categories, whatever, for best horror, best comedy, best whatever, best whatever, best whatever. Now that opens up a can of worms that could lead to other problems too, I acknowledge it, but just for the basic sake of the argument. You could acknowledge and honor a lot more films. You would be giving a lot more recognition to the different genres of film. And then at the end of the night, you take the winners of all those categories and say, now for the best picture, the nominees are winner of the horror category, Fuck Your Face. From the winner of the comedy category, Eat My Poop. From the winner of the dramatic thing, Dear Mom, I Died 5 Years Ago. From the winner of thriller, The Fourth Mistress in the Attic. And the winner of overall best picture goes to... Boom! Stop laughing at me. I didn't prep this.
You know that your fan base, that our viewers are going to make movie posters for every one of those titles.
I've just had to make up some titles off the top of my head.
I can't wait to see them.
Best comedy, Eat My Poop. And then at the end, having one grand thing. So all the films that were great in drama got recognized because they were nominated for Best Drama. All the films that were great in comedy got recognized because they were at least nominated for Best Comedy. But you go through all that, do the winners, and at the end of the night, announce one big grand winner. I'm going to tell you this, Rob, as somebody who normally poo-poos on the idea of adding all these different categories or whatever to the Oscars, I gotta say, it needs refinement, but I don't hate this idea. I don't hate it. Now, it's fraught with some potential landmines. Number one, okay, then we get into the fight every year. Was that really a thriller? Or was that a musical? Or was that a horror? I mean, so the cross genre, so that becomes a pitfall. No matter, even if you had 50 nominees for Best Picture at the end of every year, there's going to be arguments that movie number 51 didn't get into the top 50. I mean, so that's always going to be here. It doesn't fix that. But I'll tell you what, when I read this message, it kind of resonated with me. The idea that you break it down, and again, this could have all of its problems all its own. I'm acknowledging right now we haven't thought this all through, but I'm just saying in principle, the idea of like 7 categories of film, and including documentary, by the way, and each category gets honored and a winner of each category is pronounced. And then so, XX movie gets winner of the Academy Award Best Horror Picture of 2019. And then at the end of the night, you bring up the list of all the winners of the individual categories, and the winner of Best Overall Picture goes to blah, blah, blah. Obviously, it'll be drama. But still, I gotta tell you, I know there are going to be a lot of pitfalls, but on its surface, I kind of dig it. I do. I kind of like this. Again, it would have to be refined. You'd have to work out a lot of the hard edges on this. I think there would be a lot of work that has to be done on the idea, but in principle, I think I kind of dig it. Anyway, Rob, tell me why I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know. You hear this say, what do you think about it?
No, you know what? I'm gonna say you're not wrong. The Saturn Awards do this already. The Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films does that.
Which you've won a couple.
I have one. Yes, but it's true. I like this idea, because most of it doesn't affect any of the other topics like Best Actor. That can all stay the same. But I think it's really interesting because I've always felt there's a certain prejudice against genres at the Academy Awards. However, the other side of the flip side of that is that the Academy Awards should transcend genre. That it should be, I've always thought the Best Picture winners, you know, whether it's Silence of the Lambs or Lord of the Rings, or whether it's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or something like that, the best pictures transcend the various genres that they're a part of. But because of that, a lot of the time, genre films do get overlooked. And if there's an overall winner, and then you have, say, 4 or 5 different categories of best picture in those genres, I think that would be a much better solution to get people to watch the Academy Awards than best popular film. You know, which, what does that mean? And I think that it just depends. Are you going to drill down and be like, best superhero movie? Which I don't think they should do. But I don't hate this idea either, John.
I mean, you could, like, again, like I was saying, it would lead to these arguments. Was that this movie or was that? So, for instance, you take, let's say Endgame. Do we put that under the sci-fi fantasy genre? So if you create sci-fi fantasy, is that where we put comic book movies? Then
yes.
Joker. Does Joker qualify as a drama? Does it qualify as a thriller? Or does it qualify as a... I mean, so it would create that argument every year for sure. So a lot of work that needs to be done on the idea. Let's acknowledge. But I think in principle, I think I might dig it. Question here is, guys, what would you think about a move like that? I mean, I don't know that we're really going to get something like that, and I know it's fraught with potential problems, but do you think in principle it could you work, or do you think, nah, it's too overreaching at this point? That's way too much to do. What do you think about it? Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Draven, who writes, Hey, John, I see you've been talking about the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer not being out on your show recently and the possibility that's been delayed. Well, it's just been delayed from March 13th, 2020, all the way to November 13th, 2020. 8 months. When is it? March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Yep, 8 months. What are your thoughts? Thanks, and keep up the good work. Thank you so much for that, Draven. What he's talking about is, of course, last week, one of our feature topics was, hey, do we think that Godzilla vs. King Kong has been delayed? And I said, you know what? We're just getting too close. Now, normally I'm the guy that's saying, don't worry about it. Still plenty of time for marketing. But I said, for a movie this big and this important, that's a potential tentpole blockbuster kind of film, the fact that we don't even have a poster, nobody's talking about it. And I said, I'm starting to get the feeling this thing's going to be bumped. I'm starting to get the feeling this thing's going to be bumped. Here we are a week later. They've bumped it. 8 months. This thing hasn't just been bumped a couple of weeks. They've bumped this thing 8 months. Now, thankfully, they have not spent a ton of money on marketing this thing yet. But, I mean, obviously, we're not surprised. We talked about this last week. We were kind of expecting to hear that it was going to be bumped, and lo and behold, it's been bumped. But 8 months, Rob, that tells me, and there's no official word on this, could be wrong about this, but that tells me that there is something about this movie that is not working for them. Whether it's right now the post effects are not where we want them to be, whether it's there's something about the story that is not working that we need to fix, whether it's we need 2 months of reshoots on this. This is not just a, you know what, we think November would be a better release date. That they could have figured out 6 months ago. They didn't have to wait until now to figure that out. So it tells me that there is something significant behind the scenes. Does that mean Godzilla versus Kong is going to be a disaster? Absolutely not. Because even if it is a disaster right now, and we don't know that it is, but even if it was, okay, then they just bought themselves a bunch of time to try to fix that problem. But it does tell me that there is something fundamental about this movie that they are not comfortable with and that they do not like right now. Otherwise, I don't think we see this type of a bump. Now, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of PR spin on this coming from the studio pretty soon. It's like, no, we just want to give it a little more room to breathe. Whatever. There is something fundamental about this movie they needed to change one way or the other. Rob, you see this big move. Are you surprised? And how do you interpret it?
Well, to be honest, I'm not surprised because I've always felt, and this is just a feeling I've always had from the very beginning, as somebody who loves kaiju monsters, and I'm a huge fan of this genre. I love Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I always thought that this movie seemed that it went into production very quickly, that it was made very quickly. I've always felt that way. And I'm like, they didn't just move this to September. They moved it into November, which is a pretty prestigious slot. It's not a, we're going to dump this movie slot. And I would like to believe.
I do want to remind you, the John Cena firefighter movie just came out this November. Just want to remind you of that. just throw that in there.
I choose to believe. I like to put a positive spin on this. I think that they've seen the potential in this movie, and that they want to take more time and make it great. I loved Kong Skull Island. I had a great time with that movie. I bought the 4K disc. I've watched it more times than I probably should care to admit. But I'm hoping this movie has a great cast, and I'm hoping that they've come up with something special. I mean, they're bringing back Kyle Chandler. That's all I need to know. But I hope it's going to be good. But John, I agree with you. I think they've seen something in this film that they think they need to make it better. And that can be a good thing. That can be a good thing.
But who doesn't want to see Godzilla fight King Kong? I mean, we all want to see Godzilla fight King Kong, right?
That new Criterion box set does have King Kong versus Godzilla in it, so you can watch what it looked like in the early 60s.
There you go. Question is, guys, what do you think? Are you surprised that they actually did go ahead, pull the trigger, and make the move of this movie? Why do you think it is? Do you think it's just a scheduling thing? Do you think, they needed to fix some things? What are you guys thinking about it right now? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Mr. Wayne, who writes, "Hey, John, love your show. Thank you so much, Mr. Wayne. I read that a producer of the Black Adam movie said it'd be cool to see Superman in that movie. Am I getting too excited for nothing? Please temper my excitement because I'm losing my mind if this is true." All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And for those of you who do not know what Mr. Wayne is talking about, Hiram Garcia, one of the producers on Black Adam, he's also a producer on Jumanji, by the way, was talking about out doing press for Jumanji, and he was asked, hey, any chance Henry Cavill's Superman could pop up in the Black Adam movie? So he was directly asked the question. It's not like he came out of his house one day, excuse me, I'd like to make a statement. No, he was asked while promoting Jumanji about, do you think there's ever a chance, could we get Henry Cavill as Superman in Black Adam? And this is what he said. This got a lot of people buzzing. He said the following: I think the DC universe is a wonderful universe, and we're open to everything. We have big aspirations for it. We are friends with Henry Cavill. Dwayne and Henry are friends. By the way, they're both represented by the same person. It's a huge comic book brand as well. And I always just loved the idea. Who knows? But man, Black Adam for Superman is really cool. That would be really powerful. So that is the statement that he has made. Now, it's important to note 2 things here, I believe. Number 1, as the producer of the movie, he was asked directly, are we going to get Henry Cavill as Superman? And he didn't deny it. He didn't say no. He didn't shoot it down. And I think that's important to keep in mind here. That I think a lot of circumstances, not that he has to say yes, but I think in a lot of circumstances, another producer could say, oh, we love Superman, but, this is a Black Adam movie, and so no. And I think it is important to note that he did not turn down the idea. He did not shoot it down. The second thing I think we need to keep in mind here and observe is that he did not say this is what's going to happen.
Right.
He's put on the spot. He's asked a direct question pertaining to a friend of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's about a DC property, and he's working the DC universe. And what's he supposed to say? Nah, F Superman. Is that what he's supposed to say? He gave a very, I think, diplomatic and actually, quite honestly, a very seasoned veterans kind of response. I think the DC universe is a wonderful universe, and we're friends with Henry, and Dwayne's friends with Henry. It's a huge comic book brand, and I love the idea. Who knows? Wow, that would be really cool. Doesn't sound to me like he is going to be in it. And by the way, they've already announced a starting date for when they're going to shoot this thing. I think they know who's in their movie. If they don't know who's in this movie at this point, then the DC brand at Warner Brothers is in a bigger mess than anybody ever thought. I think they've got an idea and they know who is going to be and what their basic story is. They may not have a completed script yet, which I think they do, by the way, but there's a possibility maybe they don't have a completed script, but by now they know what their movie's about. So I think there are two important things here, Rob. I think important thing number one, he did not shoot it down, so let's not act like he did. But number two, I don't exactly take that as a ringing endorsement that he is going to be there. So I'm going to personally fall on very firmly into the middle ground of, he's still saying it's a possibility. I don't expect to see Superman, and I'll tell you why I don't even want Superman in Black Adam. I've had enough of seeing Superman jobbing to other characters in Wonder Woman. I don't need to see Superman jobbing to Black Adam. And I love Black Adam, but it's Superman. And if all they want to do, and I'm not saying they do, is to bring along Superman to be a second fiddle character in another property, when you've already made him the joke of a Supergirl show, now you want to bring him over and make Superman a second fiddle character again, and heaven forbid if they have him jobbing to Black Adam just to put Black Adam over? Oh, hell no. Hell no, I don't want that. Now, you want to bring in Superman because he's the one who helps his goodness and his might and his righteousness inspire Black Adam to maybe change his ways a little bit to become the anti-hero or whatever. You want to do that? Okay. I'm open to that. But you know that's not what they would do if you brought in Superman. They would use Superman to put Black Adam over. And you do not job Batman, you don't job Superman, and you don't job Wonder Woman. Those are the three you cannot job. And they job Superman badly, so I don't want it. But I think we have to acknowledge that at least he still left the door a little bit open, that is a possibility, but I'm not expecting that they will. Rob, you see these comments. How did you interpret them? And how do you think they should proceed with something like this?
Well, I think you said it quite well. He's a seasoned professional. He knows what's up. He gave a fine answer that leaves the door open for everything. But I mean, frankly, I would rather see Shazam in a Black Adam movie. That's what belongs in that film.
Right. Having
Superman in a Black Adam movie is fine, but I would rather see the Shazam family built up. But yeah, look, would I like to see Henry Cavill's Superman fight Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Black Adam? Yes, John. Yes, I would. I think that would be fantastic. But again, I would rather see a Black Adam movie stand on its own and deal with its own mythos. I mean, as a longtime fan of Captain Marvel, Shazam, Captain Marvel, and Black Adam, and growing up with the Marvel family and loving, my favorite part of Shazam was when they introduced the Marvel family. And Black Adam is a part of that whole thing, and I would love to see more of that. And I think, what's really interesting is what Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has been doing with his career. I would expect that we would see the Marvel family in a Black Adam movie, because that's the kind of thing Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would do. So that excites me more than the idea of seeing Superman. Look, seeing Superman fighting Black Adam's cool, but I don't know if that's the best thing for a Black Adam movie. Like you said, I want a Superman movie. I don't want Superman to show up in the last third of Black Adam to be somebody cool that he can fight. I would rather see the Marvel family and Shazam deal with Black Adam.
I agree, but I think they're planning on building up to Black Adam, Shazam crossing over. I don't think we're going to see any of them, but maybe we will. Anyway, guys, the question is twofold for you. Number one, do you think, listening to Hiram's comments, that leads you to believe he is going to be in it? Do his comments lead you to believe that he's not going to be in it? Do they lead you to believe, like me, it's like, I doubt it, but it does at least leave a crack in the door open? Bigger question, though, is should Superman show up in a Black Adam movie? I am personally 100% against it, depending on their approach to it. But maybe you feel differently. Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Sam Johnston, who writes, "Hi, John. Over here in the UK, a couple of cinema chains have banned the film Blue Story after a fight broke out at one of the screenings. This reminds me a little of the Joker scenario, where people seem to draw the conclusion that a violent film will incite violence in others. I think banning this film as a shame, as it is important to highlight the dangers of gang violence in the lifestyle, particularly here in London. What are your thoughts on this matter?" All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in Sam. And yesterday I started getting a lot of messages from people about this movie called Blue Story. The basics of the story was this. that there's this cinema chain called Vue, V-U-E, in the UK. They're not huge. They're not massive. But apparently at one of the screenings, a fight broke out that involved multiple people. Machetes were involved. And in the trailer of Blue Story, I have not seen the trailer myself, but apparently, according to the stories, in the trailer, there's violence going on with machetes. So there was a little bit of fear that it might be being emulated. Now, some people concluded, at that point, Vue decided, you know what? We can't have, we're nervous about what's going to happen to our customers. We're nervous about what's going to happen to our staff. We're going to pull that movie out of our theaters. By the way, I want to remind everybody about something. No movie is owed being in theaters. A theater doesn't owe it to any movie to put their movie in their theaters. A movie theater can put any movie in their theater that they want and not put any movie that they want in their theaters. It's totally up to them. It's not like some movie has a right to be in theaters. No, that is a privilege that a theater chain, if they decide they want to put that movie on their screens, they can put it on the screens. If they don't for whatever their reasons are. They looked at that. Now, the narrative that started going around online was a narrative of all because some fight broke out one place, one time, they overreacted and pulled the trigger. Well, actually, it was much more than that. Now, according to a statement put out by Vue themselves, they wrote the following. The decision to withdraw Blue Story was not, this is from Vue, the theater chain. The decision to withdraw Blue was not one taken lightly or without careful consideration of our experiences across the country. The film opened in 60 of our sites across the UK and Ireland on Friday, the 22nd of November. But during the first 24 hours of the film, over 25 significant incidents were reported and escalated to senior management in 16 separate cinemas. This is the biggest number that we have ever seen for any film in such a short time frame. Despite a range of precautionary measures in place, including increased security, removal of late-night showings, and reduced screenings of the film, the decision to withdraw Blue Story in its entirety was made on Saturday evening on the grounds of safety alone. While we are disappointed that these are the actions we've had to take, we hope it is understandable that we cannot and will not take any risks with regard to the welfare and safety of our staff and our customers. Unfortunately, the actions of a significant few people have spoiled the opportunity for others, but we stand by, let me get that last line, but we stand by our decision to withdraw the film from our schedule indefinitely. Now, it is also important to point out that 24 hours after this, they decided to put it back in their theaters. In an update that came in, the UK chain Showcase is reinstating, at least, one of the chains is Blue Story with increased security protocols. So they're going to put it back in. So I believe they're two separate chains, Vue and Showcase. Showcase is I put it back in with increased security protocols. Here's the thing. This scenario reminds me a little bit of the situation when, what was the James Franco, Seth Rogen movie about North Korea?
The Interview. The
Interview, which, by the way, wasn't even a good movie. But I remember there were potential threats going around. There was a bit of a scare, and some theaters decided we're not going to play the movie in our theaters because we're concerned about the safety of our staff, and we're concerned about the safety of our customers. To which a lot of keyboard brave warriors decided to slam the movie theater chains, saying, "You're being a coward. You don't capitulate to threats. You go ahead and you do those screenings." Everybody, you know what? My buddy, I got two friends of mine, Sol and Mac. And Mac, we often play poker together, and Mac's always yelling at people to go all in. And my buddy Sol so accurately put, Mac, you're always the most aggressive player who's not even in the hand. I find everybody's real brave about what other people should do. Everybody is an expert on what somebody else should do. But I remember I had this argument with somebody. This was around the time of the interview. And this person said, You can't, it doesn't matter if there's threats on these places. You can't capitulate. You got to keep the doors open. You got to have people come and see, blah, blah, blah. And I put this to them, and I've never had one good response to this. I said, okay, let me ask you something, tough guy. Let's say a bomb threat is sent in to your kid's school tomorrow. You sending your kid to school? Come on, tough guy. Come on, brave internet keyboard warrior. You sending your kid to school tomorrow? I'll bet you $1 million you're not. Oh, that's different because it's your kid. It's different because that's right. Everybody is a brave, tough guy when it comes to what other people should do. And look, everybody forgets about this, Rob. Remember the tragedy at that Cinemark theater when The Dark Knight Rises opened? Right? The shooting at the theater with the dark, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't the movie theater's fault. But they got the pantsuit off them anyway. They were held responsible, even though it was not their fault. Can you imagine what would happen? And I know this is the unpopular opinion. Fuck the popular opinion. I'm going to say what's true. All right? Can you imagine what would happen to View Cinemas if a couple of people bought a movie ticket to go see this movie that looks really good, Blue Story, and they go and some kind of fight breaks out at it that was prearranged, and like a woman gets injured who'd planned to go to see this movie, she gets injured, and her lawyer finds out you had 25 other incidents of violence in the previous 48 hours and you still did this screening and didn't notify everybody who was coming and you didn't put up any warnings. They're done. They're going to get sued out of existence. Now, I'm not saying that if I'm the GM of a theater or a theater chain, I'm not saying that I pull the movie myself. I'm not saying that's what they should do. But I'm saying anybody who says you shouldn't pull it out is being a brave, tough guy keyboard warrior. And you're not thinking about the overall situation. Now, I think it's kind of a nice move that there's theaters said, you know what we're going to do is we're going to cough out the extra money, and this is going to make them lose money. By the way, this movie theater chain is going to lose money on this movie playing in their theaters because now they got to put out extra money. They're probably going to have to put in metal detectors. They're probably going to have to do all this stuff for all this increased security just to cover them from a sense of liability from a legal point of view. And I applaud them for that, actually. I do. I think that's great. I think it's great when a movie gets to play. So again, I'm not saying they should have pulled it. I'm not saying they shouldn't have. All I'm saying is it never ceases to amaze me how brave and how tough guy people become about how other people should act in the face of a very difficult situation. And by the way, how we as movie fans, and I do this myself too, I'm as guilty as this as anybody, that we oversimplify very, very complex situations like this one, because there's a lot of dimensions to keep in mind here. Now, I celebrate that it looks like this film is going to get its day and they're going to be played. And I agree with the statement that View put out saying it's unfortunate that these bunch of jackholes have to ruin the experience for everybody. And they're right in saying so. Now, again, I'm not saying I would have pulled it, but I completely understand and agree why somebody like a View Cinema with their necks on the line, it ain't your neck on the line, it ain't my neck on the line, it's their necks on the line. I understand whether I would have done the same thing or not. Why a View Cinema would go, hey, we've had 25 incidents in 24 hours. We are concerned about the safety of our customers, and we're concerned about the safety of our staff, and we're concerned about our liability, that we could get sued out of existence if something else happens. It is the safer thing for us at this point right now to say, we're just not going to play the movie in our theaters, regardless of what the internet tough guys, keyboard warriors think about it. So I celebrate that it is going to play. I think that's great. But I also would totally understand any move on their part if they didn't, because they are worried about the safety of their staff and their customers. So anyway, Rob, you see this. I think it's even far more complicated than even I'm considering it to be. But you see this. What's your first reactions? What are your first thoughts? What do you do in a situation like this?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to say that this movie's not been banned. No one has said this movie is going to be banned because of subject matter. We're going to take this away so nobody can see it. What has happened is a movie theater, which is not in the business of protecting its customers against machete-wielding hooligans, is now, to me, if there's any violence of any kind at a movie theater, you're done. You pull the movie, you get rid of it. It's not a movie theater's job to provide extra security. I mean, if you've got a bunch of douchebags that are part of gangs in Birmingham that are going to go to a movie theater and bring machetes to next to an auditorium where Frozen 2 is playing, which is, I read about this story. I'm like, there is no question. You pull the film. It's done. It's not the film's fault. The film isn't being banned. These gang members, rather than buy a ticket, they came to a movie theater to start some shit. And they did in multiple theaters. You blame those people. You go after those people. Movie theaters are not in the business of providing personal security to prevent violence at movie screenings. And remember, the movie theaters should not be the ones that are pilloried in this. Who should be the people you should go after are the gang members that show up with machetes to movie theaters. I mean, you know, if they can't see the movie, what problem? Whose problem is it? It's the gang members that did this. Don't make the movie theaters the villains. The movie theaters are there to provide entertainment. They're there to provide fun. They're there to provide a great environment and great projection. That's their job. Their job is not to provide armed guards in case machete-wielding hooligans show up at a movie theater. I mean, I don't want to live in that world. We already live in America in a world where somebody tried to set their shoe on fire, and now we have TSA lines for the last 20 years. I mean, it's these kinds of things. It's zero tolerance. Somebody shows up, you're done. The movie gets pulled. It's unfortunate for the filmmakers. But I mean, like you said, everybody's like, oh, the movie's banned. It's not banned. It'll show up on a streaming service. Go get it on physical media.
Or another theater chain.
But another theater chain, they capitalized on this. That theater chain is capitalizing on the fact, I think that theater chain is incredibly irresponsible, and they're using this publicity to think that they can get some extra money. I think, you know, I don't think the government should step in and do anything about it, but I think this theater chain is playing with fire, and I don't think what they're doing is good. I think they've got multiple acts of violence. I think they want to say, look at how cool we are. They're a theater chain. They're bringing in more security. What's that even about? I mean, your job is not to provide security for your customers. Your job is to show movies to everybody, and I think it's ridiculous. You want to tempt fate? I mean, you've got multiple incidents of violence across the country, and you are gonna. I think it's a big mistake. I wouldn't have done it. And if something happens, if one person gets hurt at that theater, like you were just saying earlier, John, they knew the risks and they took them on, and they're publicizing the fact that we're going to show the movie anyway. We're the cool, tough guys because, hey, we're a movie theater, so we know how to protect our customers against machete-wielding punks.
It also reminds, again, if somebody came back to me, I was having this discussion with somebody on Twitter this morning, and said, well, you know, if somebody else gets hurt in a theater, this is now very public. You knew the risks going to see that movie. Since when is going to a movie something you need to assess your risk?
Yeah.
And on top of that, what I said back to them is, okay, so maybe a couple A doesn't want to go see Blue Story. What if they wanted to go see Joker tonight? What if they wanted to go see Frozen 2 with their kids? Can you imagine what will happen to them in court if some family goes to a movie theater that is also playing Blue Story on their screens, and some type of violence erupts, and their kid, heaven forbid, their kid that they brought to Frozen 2 gets hurt? You know what's going to happen to them in court? They're going to get sued out of existence, and rightfully so. But again, I think I'm getting dangerously close to oversimplifying it as well. A lot of us, I think, are outrageously guilty of oversimplifying this whole thing and failing to understand there are many, many layers to this that I think need to be taken into consideration. Again, it's a dicey situation. I feel bad for the filmmakers because this is not the filmmakers' fault. And it really sucks that they're going to get punished for this because of the actions of a bunch of jackholes. That's really unfortunate. So I don't know. I mean,
I would like to know where the filmmakers are in terms of this. situation.
Well, they put out a comment.
Oh, they did.
They put out a comment and said, look, they said, ultimately, this Blue Story is a movie about the redemptive power of love and about the healing thing. This movie is not about violence, but violence is a part of the story, much like violence is a part of the story of Avengers. Violence is a part of the story of Spider-Man. Violence is the part of the story. Ultimately, our film is about love. And if a bunch of jackholes want to take that and twist it and use it as a pretext to give themselves an excuse to go and carry on like a bunch of jackholes and ruin evenings and experiences for anyway, it's tough talk. Anyway, guys, you guys have seen this whole situation. What do you guys think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. Guys, with all that down out of the way, we're now going to go over and take the live questions that you guys have been sending in using our tip feature, which is down in the top line of our description below, or using the super chat feature right there in the YouTube chat. We're going to get to those, but before we do, as we like to do around here, we're going to give ourselves a quick 4-minute break to rest the vocal cords, stretch our legs, refill our drinks, and all that kind of stuff. So if you will hang tight with us, guys, for just a couple of minutes, get ready. We're getting to your live questions when we come right back. We'll see you momentarily. Thank you, everybody, for your indulgence. We took just a minute there to refresh ourselves. All right. Let's not waste any time and get right into the questions that you guys have been sending in. First of all day using the tip feature below. By the way, thank you to everybody who does it, and using the super chat feature in YouTube. So thank you guys for all of that. Let's get started here. Willow writes, I cracked up when you said the other day that a video titled "The 3 Worst Farts I Ever Heard in a Movie Theater" would get more views than a red carpet interview. What's the worst experience you've had with an audience member at the theater? Oh, that's easy. I've told this story before. Me and a buddy of mine went to go see, I think it was called 23 or the number 23 with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
First of all, the movie was horrible, but I had, not to stereotype, but we had these 3 teenage girls sitting behind us that would not shut the F up the whole frickin' movie, to the point that my buddy, and I don't condone this, I do not condone it, I'm just saying, my buddy turned around and basically threatened them. It's like, first he asked nicely, and then they blah 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 blah. Like, it's not like, Rob, sometimes people will lean over and whisper to each other. I respect, I don't mind that. I don't mind a person every once in a while leaning over to the person beside them and trying to, as quietly as they can, whisper something. That's cool. They're trying to be considerate. I'm fine with that. But blah 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 blah.
Especially in that movie.
Especially in that, which was bad to begin with. But it was bad to begin with. Do you have a particular worst experience ever?
Yes. At the Seattle International Film Festival, back in the 80s, I used to be a pass holder, a full series pass holder. And we would go, and you'd usually sit in the same seat every time, and the full series pass holders would get let in first. Well, there was a woman, she was a larger lady, who came in, and she smelled worse than anyone I've ever smelled in my life. And I'm always trying to be polite, and I always try and give everyone else the benefit of the doubt. Everybody has a story to tell that I haven't heard yet, and I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. I figured this would happen once. For whatever reason, she talked to me, and I tried to talk to her, so she would sit next to me 25% of the time for the entire month that the film festival ran. And I did not understand how a human being could leave the house smelling the way she smelled. It was a very unique smell. It wasn't like a homeless person or something. I know she was like a landscape artist or something, but man, it got to the point where there was one time I almost threw up in the theater, and it went on for a month, and it was bad.
That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate to hear that.
And it was because I was nice, and I kept talking to her, and I'm like, oh boy. I couldn't say anything to her. I was too embarrassed.
All right, next up, Benny writes, rewatch Star Wars Rebels, and although Maul is surprised to learn Obi-Wan was alive on Tatooine, there's nothing to suggest they didn't have an altercation after the Clone Wars. Perhaps Obi-Wan-ish Ben bumped into him off-world somewhere, and they fought. Look, no, Benny, it is clearly implied. The clear implied intent of the story in Rebels was that Maul has not bumped into Obi-Wan again. That is clearly implied. That is clearly implied. So anything else, and so what's the point? What are you going to do? Having the Obi-Wan show, just one day Obi-Wan's walking through Market and just out of nowhere with no setup and no context, bumped into Maul, boom, done, and that's it? I mean, that's dumb. That's dumb. So no, it would completely be a violation of canon because the clear implied message of Rebels was clear and unmistakable. Maul had no idea Obi-Wan was alive. He has not encountered Maul since the events of The Phantom Menace. That is the clear message. And anything to subvert that to me is breaking canon. All right. Dumbledore Calrissian writes, I love the name. Hey, John, I've always wanted to start a podcast, but I've been intimidated by it. As simple as it was, your challenge to just go do it really stuck with me. And my brother and I recorded our first episode of our Star Wars podcast last night. Thanks for everything. Listen, that is awesome. And I'm always encouraging people to get involved in something creatively, even if it's blogging, podcasting, YouTubing. I think more people need to add their voices to the conversation. All the tools are there. It's not hard to do. And it doesn't matter if 5 people listen or watch or read, or 50 people or 500 people. It doesn't matter. Just add your voice to the conversation, embrace it as a part of your fandom, and have fun doing it. So I'm super glad you're doing that, Dumbledore. Thanks for sharing that, man. All right, Brian Esparza writes, John, if you haven't already, please watch The Last Black Man in San Francisco. I do need to see that because a bunch of people have told me about it. It's still my #1 film in 2019. Almost got bumped by Parasite. So overlooked, but it's beautifully shot, acted, written, and directed. Would you do a quick review if you got the chance? No, I'll never do a review of it because I have a policy. I don't review a movie. If I haven't had a chance to see and review a movie before it opens or within 2 or 3 days that it opens, then I don't do a review for it. That's just my rule. It's always been that rule, so that's that. So no, I won't review it. But it is one that I've heard from a lot of people is really good, and I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I really, really should, Brian. I keep forgetting about it, too, so thanks for putting it back in my... Rob, have you had a chance to see that one
No,
yet?
but it's a movie I really want to see.
I've heard so many people say so many good things about it.
It's a movie right up my alley, so...
All right, Andrew Vanderwoord writes, Hey, John, over under 50%, the next Star Wars movie takes place in Old Republic time period. 50%? Because I think there's a very good chance the next movie after Episode 9 takes place in Old Republic. I'm going to go over 50%. I just hear Old Republic era. Remember, not any particular Old Republic story that we've gotten in other stuff, but at least an Old Republic era. I've heard them buzz about it so much. I'm going to go over. It's not a guarantee, but I'm going to go over 50%. Rob, what about you?
I think over too, because I would love to see a movie that delves into that period, or even people talked about it might be about the beginnings of the Jedi and the Sith and getting into the whole history and where did all these people come from. I still want to know, what do the Sith want? When they take over the galaxy, are they going to fix people's plumbing? Like, what are they going to do? Like, you've got the Master and the Apprentice, and the Sith have won. Is it going to be like Zod going, well, I'm so bored, and Ursa's going to be like, well, you're master of all you survey. Like, what do the Sith do when they've taken over the galaxy? I want to know, John.
They pursue immortality. If
Public
you're Palpatine,
education?
Pursue immortality. All right, Ivan Gonzalez Pena writes, Hey, John, biggest news story of the decade for me is when speaking of which, is when North Korea threatened us over The Interview, which is not the best Seth or James Franco movie. First found you through your Man of Steel review. Thank you for all that you do, and this is the way. And you know what's been really neat? Because yesterday we brought up the topic. Thanks for sharing that, Ivan. We brought up the topic yesterday about what has been the biggest movie news story of the decade. I brought up a couple of specific news items, which was, of course, I think the breaking of the all-time box office record by Avengers Endgame and the purchase of Star Wars by Disney. I think those are the two. Rob, you brought up
more general,
the ongoing story, like more
decade.
general things of the decade, the rise of streaming, and what was the second one you mentioned?
And the reign of Disney,
Bob
Iger's reign of Disney,
so
and what he's
ongoing
done.
things. It's been really interesting seeing. I've had a lot of people tweeting and commenting what different stories that they thought were really big, and that was definitely a big one because that was one everybody was talking about for a while. So that's a really good pick, Ivan. Well done. I like that one. All right, Anonymous writes. Is there a way to send a tip question directly for Weekly Hero and our Dark Side, Light Side? That's a great question, Anonymous. And that's something I didn't think about. It's funny because I thought about that last night. And I had not thought about it because like later today, we have the next episode of Dark Side, Light Side. But I haven't set up a specific way to take questions from the tip feature.
Oh, dude, you're missing out.
And so I don't know. What I would suggest is if you guys want to send in a question for Dark Side, Light Side later, is maybe start first of all, if you want to send it in on Super Chat, that's easy. That's no problem. If you want to send it in using the tip feature, I'd say start your thing with Star Wars question and then do that. And just so I know that's specifically for that. But I do need to figure out how to work that out properly because that is, yep, that's something I didn't think far enough ahead.
But can't somebody just use the Force and contact you? And
You think?
psychically implant a question?
I could be talking about how cool the Ewoks are. And then all of a sudden I go, wait a minute, I'm getting something.
Yeah.
That could be a way. It's a great question, Anonymous, and that's me not thinking far enough ahead. But I'll figure that out. I will figure it out. Anon Y. Moas writes, this is my first super chat / tipping. I love the show. You are all important and do great things. Remember that even when the things are long and you're tired from all the internet BS, from one movie fan to another, thank you. Oh, thanks so much, man. You listen, a lot of people, I had somebody ask me the other day, hey, John, what do you do the other 22 hours of the day when you're not doing the John Campea Show? And I'm like, you have no idea. You have no idea how many hours goes into making this show happen every single day.
Well, people don't understand. It's a full-time job.
Putting these shows together.
And you're working 7 days a week.
It's thing, but, and so sometimes, yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, last night, I'm not gonna lie, last night, I was really down. I was really down last night and Ann was like, what's going on? Because Ann and I went to a football game last night. Imagine that. I went out with my wife in the evening. But I remember getting home and being so overwhelmed because we had to leave for the football game at 2 p.m. So I didn't have the show notes for today written. And I need to get show notes to Ray by about 6 o'clock so he can start getting graphics together. So me going to a football game meant my whole schedule was thrown out of whack. And I couldn't get the show notes to Ray in time, which meant I had to start writing my show notes like after 10 o'clock at night last night, which meant I had to tell Ray, you don't have to do the graphics for tomorrow. I'll do them. So I had to stay up stupid late. Couldn't go to the gym this morning, so I had to get up and like at 5:30 in the morning, I'm just up doing graphics for the show today. And I don't have my graphics ready for Dark Side, Light Side yet. And normally I like to get those done and prep the day before as well. I didn't get any of that done. And last night I was laying in bed and I'm just like, I'm feeling completely overwhelmed by how I'm feeling avalanched by everything. And it was tough, but I really do appreciate that, Ann, and I really do. Thank you so much for sending that in, and I appreciate it deeply. I really do, because it's messages like that get me through it. So thank you, man. All right. Isaac Beebe writes, I read several articles recently claiming that Colin Trevorrow never planned to have Papa Palpatine in his version of Episode 9. I love this new trilogy, but is this proof that they winged it and only brought him back due to The Last Jedi backlash? I don't know that I buy it, Isaac Beebe, to be honest with you. And I haven't, for all I know, Colin Trevorrow said that directly, but I have not heard that, and I have not seen that from his lips specifically. J.J. Abrams has said, though, has implied that that's always kind of been his vision of where this whole thing was going anyway. So I don't know where you got that information from. And like I said, maybe it came right out of Colin Trevorrow's mouth, but I have not heard that. I'm just saying that. Maybe it's true. I just haven't seen it. So I don't know, Rob, what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, and if he did or if he didn't, I mean, filmmakers all want to do one thing. It's J.J. Abrams is doing something different. So what does it matter? J.J. Abrams put in Papa Palpatine, and I can't wait.
No, look. So no, they didn't put in. J.J. Abrams put in Palpatine because he thinks that's what's best for his movie.
Right. Exactly.
Period. It's not because there was backlash. What? Because there was backlash by some people to The Last Jedi. Oh, then we better do what's best for this movie. No, he was always going to do what's best for in their minds. They were always going to do. J.J. was always going to do what in his mind was best for the next movie. Whether what he thinks is best for the next movie and what we all think is best for the next movie, that might be different. We'll have to wait till we see the movie. But no, I don't buy that at all. Luis writes, when the Rian Johnson message came on, we were all confused because we didn't get a Knives Out poster. LOL. Love the movie, though more political than I thought it would be. And Ana de Armas needs to be in everything. And she was great. So what Luis is talking about is during the advance fan screening of Knives Out, which, by the way, is unfreaking believably good. It's my number 3 movie of the year right now. Everybody got posters as they went in. And before the movie starts, Rian Johnson comes up on screen and goes, "Hey, everybody, we've got a mystery of our own. One of you audience members on the back of your poster has a mystery sticker on it. If you do, go to the front concession after the movie is done for a mystery prize." Now, Ann and I then got mad because I'm like, I didn't take a poster when we went in because it's like, what am I going to do with it? And they were all of a sudden, damn it, we should have got that poster. But I guess there were reports coming in that some movie theaters that were at these advanced fan screenings didn't get posters. So you get Rian Johnson coming up saying, "Hey, everybody, look on the back of your poster." And everybody's going, what poster? What poster? But Rob, I am telling you, man.
What was the prize?
I don't know.
I guess it was a mystery.
Yeah, I never knew because I didn't win, so I couldn't go to the concession stand to find out. But the movie is so good. It is so good. And by the way, the movie's not political at all. I keep hearing from people saying that the movie is political. I've seen the movie. It is not political in the least. There is nothing political about this movie. I'm going to tell you what. There's one scene in the movie where the whole family is together and they're bickering about a political issue. And I'm like, but that's one scene. And it's like, I'm sorry. Have you never been to big awkward family get-togethers and an issue of politics comes up and everybody starts arguing and fighting? Because if you've never had that in your family, God bless. Because it happens in mine. But that was it. It was one scene and it was an argument between different family members and it never even took a stand one way. There was nothing political about this movie. And I don't mind. I don't mind if movies want to throw in a little bit of politics because politics are part of the world we live in. And if art reflects our world, then it's okay that sometimes it reflects that. So I have no problem if they want it. But there was no politics. I don't get it. I know you haven't seen it yet, Rob, but I cannot wait to hear your opinion of it when you do because I think you're really going to like it. All right. Tristan Thorpe writes, was playing a game while watching your show when I heard you answer a question about Jedi Fallen Order and how bad at it you are. And when you said, but I'll kick all your arses at Unreal Tournament, my immediate reaction was, I'll take that bet. I'm real good at Unreal. Because I was so obsessed with that. I was so obsessed with Unreal. Like, me and my friends for years, like literally years, that's all we would do, is we'd play Unreal. And we just play against each other and play online. We had all the mods and all the skins and all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, I'm not the best guy in the world at it. I'm just really good at that one. But that is equaled out by how bad I am at some others. Like Jedi Fallen Order. Oh, God, I stink. I die so much in that game. And I got to do a play chat of that really quick. But God, guys, if you haven't, there are two older first-person shooter games that I really encourage people to check out and try. One is Unreal Tournament, which was great. The other one, which was around the same era as Doom, and it didn't get anywhere near the attention that a lot of others did, but was called Heretic. It's a first-person shooter, and it's awesome. And one of the things you can do is, like, you can turn your opponent into a chicken, and then you just have to hit them once. And I remember we used to do that all the time. Just turn your opponent into a chicken. But and my one buddy was so good at Heretic, Rob. My one buddy, Dave Lapsley, was so good at Heretic, like so stupid good at Heretic. The baseline weapon you could have was a stick. And we would play multiplayer, and he said, okay, I'll just use I won't use any weapons, I'll just use a stick. And we're all walking around with the big tones of power and all this kind of stuff, and he'll just run around and just stick six, and I have this weapon, I just got to shoot him once and he'll be dead. He'll have a stick, he has to hit me like 50 times, and we just kill us all. And we hated Dave Lapsley. We hated him for that. But try out Heretic if you ever get a chance. Kenneth Colton writes, hey, John and Rob, 1917 is at 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. I have seen so many reviewers from people who have seen it saying it is the best war film since Saving Private Ryan. Not that there's been a ton of them. Possible Best Picture and Cinematography nominations, also filmed as one continuous shot. Yeah, it's important to note, it was not shot in one continuous shot.
Right.
They just edit it together in a way that makes, from what I've heard, I haven't seen it myself, to make it look that way. Look, I can't comment as to its Oscar chances because I haven't seen it yet. I have not seen it. I got the invite for a pressing. I didn't go because I don't go to most of them these days. But yeah, I mean, it sounded awful good because it's not just the good things that are being said. It's the people I know who have seen it who are raving about it. And I know this is pretty high on my list right now, Rob. Where is it for you?
Oh, right up there. Probably my most eagerly awaited film. A friend of mine saw it, I guess, at the Producers Guild last night, and they had everybody speak, and he said it was just unbelievable.
All right. Next up, Andrew Guilford, who tipped $50. Now, by the way, just for you guys to know, if you send in a question that's $50 or more, your question is going to get answered in its own standalone video. So I'll go more in depth on this, Andrew, later this afternoon when I record your standalone video. That'll go up on the front page of the YouTube channel. But I'll just touch on this for now. Hi, John. What are the pros and cons of Palpatine returning? I'm of two minds. The Emperor does bridge all three generations, but finishing his story in Return of the Jedi only brings him back, only to bring him back to be defeated again without setup feels cheap. Thanks. I would argue this. Without setup, we had 6 movies of setup. What are you talking about? No setup? This is Palpatine. This isn't High Lord Zergamog from the Delta Quadrant who just shows up out of nowhere.
That's not canon. I know my Star Trek, and that is not canon.
I know my Star Trek.
There's no Zergamog in the Delta Quadrant, John.
Right?
That's trying to push on us.
Janeway just didn't come across it. That's all. The Delta Quadrant's a big place, Rob. Delta Quadrant's a big place. So, but it's a great question, Andrew, and I will get to that in your own standalone video a little bit later today. Keep your eyes open for it. And thank you for that, Andrew, and supporting the channel on that level. We really appreciate it here. All right, Mr. TJ Lynn writes, yesterday I said I watched a show when doing the treadmill. Shout out to Robert Meyer Burnett, who guessed correctly that I run faster through the 4-minute break. The music is so energizing. Yes, because he was mentioning that, and then Rob goes, I bet you run faster when the break music. Apparently you nailed it, Rob.
That's awesome to know. I mean, you know, that's actually helpful for your it's a long slog there, and then right in the middle you get that burst of adrenaline. I'm happy about that.
I like that too. All right, thanks for sharing that, TJ. All right, Alvin Elmore writes, the whole James Dean situation is absurd. It absolutely is. However, I would be interested in resurrecting Bruce Lee to finish Game of Death in the way he intended it to be made. # release the Bruce Lee cut. LOL. Oh, man. But, look, this is going to be a question, Rob. It ain't going to die with the James Dean issue. This is going to be a question about recreating deceased celebrities for a movie or two. This is going to be a question we're going to have to be dealing with many times over the next 5 years or so. And look, let me say this. My basic position is this. I am okay with digitally recreating a celebrity for a movie if it is under the very specific circumstances that it is the continuation of a character that actor has already played before. So, for instance, Grand Moff Tarkin was needed in Rogue One. You needed the Grand Moff Tarkin character in that movie to really have the scope that it was going to have. I am okay with the digitally adjusting the dude's face to look more like Tarkin. I'm okay with that. If you wanted to do... What's a great classic movie where the main star is deceased? I don't know...
Humphrey Bogart, Casablanca.
Sure, okay. If for whatever reason you want to do a Casablanca spin-off film, and there's a small part where the Humphrey Bogart character is supposed to show up, that character has already been physically represented by Humphrey Bogart. So in a circumstance like that, I've got more leeway for that. But this whole thing about, we've got this movie we want to make. We think James Dean would be great in this role. Let's digitally... it's absurd and it's stupid, but it is, Rob, it's going to be a complicated issue we talk about for a lot of years to come.
Well, yeah, no, and they can eventually synthesize voices, and that's what AI is going to be doing, and it's a real question. My whole thing is this. Movies are all made up anyway. And part of it is to create realism. But if you know a character that you're watching, like Tarkin works in that fantasy context. But if you're supposed to be believing that you're seeing James Dean in a movie where everything else is real, I don't think the movie will work. I think doing that kind of thing will undermine the verisimilitude of a film.
And it's just icky.
It is icky.
Just, for the technical term, my response to your verisimilitude is icky. I think it's just icky at the same time. All right, Dave Morgan writes, my decade top 10. Number 10, Man of Steel. Number 9, Drive. Number 8, Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. That is an underappreciated movie. That movie's great. Number 7, Prisoners. Number 6, Wind River. Should have been nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, by the way. Number 5, Argo. Number 4, Whiplash. Number 3, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Number 2, The Revenant. And number 1, Inception. That is a nice mix. You got Man of Steel, you got Wind River. I like it, Rob, when people send in these lists and they're like really mixed. It's a good mixture. It's not just all period pieces, not just all comic book movies. It's a nice mix in there. Any of those ones that Dave has there that stand out to you?
Dude, I love Inception. They're all good movies he picked, but Inception, I just watched that the other day. I love that movie.
I'm still not a huge fan of the very, very ending. I'm not a big fan of like filmmakers not answering the question. When it's not when it's some little fourth level importance question. I mean the question. That to me is a little bit of a cop-out. But other than that last split second thing, it's a brilliant, brilliant film. All right, next up. Let's see, A.R. Peasy writes, hey, John and Rob. I love the show. Thank you so much, AR. Thanks for offering another way to ask questions. I finally contributed. Well, thank you so much for that, AR. We appreciate that, dude. Can we talk about one of the OG cinematic universes, the Medfield College universe? I've been enjoying these old classics on Disney+. I'm not quite sure what it is we're talking about.
Is Medfield College the Kurt Russell school, like the computer wore tennis shoes, the Strongest Man in the World, the Dexter Riley movies?
I'm not familiar. I mean, I've heard of the Dexter,
young Kurt Russell did a couple. It's like a trilogy, or maybe he did 4. But it was The Strongest Man in the World, The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, and there's one other one. That's the only thing that I can think of.
But I mean, he raises a great question, though, Rob, because you've talked about this before. One of the great things about Disney Plus is finding all these movies that you haven't seen in forever and being able to relive those again. What's the one you're always talking about that you got to see?
I watched That Darn Cat.
That Darn Cat.
But you know, I'm all about Tony and Tia and Escape from Witch Mountain. Kim Richards, before she, of course, blew up the screen in Tough Turf. And The Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Talking about Tough Turf.
Dude, Tough Turf.
All right. Next up, Tucky421 writes, hey, John, I just went to Disney, speaking of Disney Plus, and realized they've added a continue watching section, which they didn't have when I first signed up. Such a useful feature, don't you think? P.S. You're one of the best YouTubers out there. Thank you so much, Tucky. I appreciate that. Here's the thing, Rob. Somebody else wrote in once about a week or two ago, shortly after Disney Plus launched, saying, it wouldn't pick up where I left off. And I said, that's odd because it did for me.
Right.
Now, there wasn't a continue watching section yet, but when I went back to watch The Mandalorian again, it actually picked up just at the beginning of the end credits, which is where exactly I'd left off before. So it kind of was doing that, but other people were reporting they hadn't done it. Maybe it just was buggy at the time, but I do believe this is an essential feature for any streaming service, don't you think?
I think so, and I've always experienced for me with Disney Plus that I had to pause that darn cat. I went back to it. It started right where I had to go back into the app, and then, of course, it started right where I left off.
All right, next up is Murray Reich, who writes, with a $97 million budget, will Ford v. Ferrari break even or even be profitable? It's at $104 million worldwide right now. Listen, I would surmise, I think they spent around $100 million on marketing this film. I believe it was about $100 million that they spent marketing it. So hold on, let me pull this up here. Ford v. Ferrari box office. All right, so I want to get the actual final number right here, where they're at as it currently stands. Worldwide is exactly right, 104. So again, just this isn't perfect science, just basic thing. Take production cost, add the cost of marketing. Okay, that's your expense. Now take the box office haul and minus roughly 1/3, and that's how much you got. That being in mind, this movie needs to make about $300 million to break even. Roughly. In that neighborhood. It ain't going to break even. Unless, look, the one thing it has going for it right now, Rob, is that it gets a lot of Oscar attention. If it can pull in like 7 Oscar nominations while it's still in theaters, and they do a push to increase its release again with that could push it over that, no pun intended, push it over the finish line. But if right now, if it was April right now, I'd say no, there's no way this thing's going to break
Also,
even.
I don't know how many foreign territories it's opened in. I mean, I
That's
would
true.
imagine
It might have a lot more to go still.
A lot more to go, and it might do very, very well in Europe. Everyone knows what Le Mans is in Europe.
Yeah,
so.
and it's got a different name there as well. All right, good question though, Murray. Ralph writes, I refuse to watch the show any further until you hire CGI James Dean as a co-host.
Oh, great. What am I going to do?
Sorry,
Thanks
Rob.
a lot.
Sorry, Rob. I guess we're just going to have to James Dean over
I
your
know
face.
he's pretty, and he's younger, and he drives cars, but come on, man.
I think
Bobby got to eat.
I think Ralph's got an idea. I think that would increase the viewership of the show if I could actually James Dean was my co-host. We might have to CGI your face, dude.
Oh, man.
So you better start learning how to do a good James Dean
Fake
impersonation.
me with Max Headroom.
David Mudge writes, third attempt about my flying fear. I've now taken 60 flights since getting over my fear, including Italy, even though every flight I take is still not easy. I hope you can get through your fear too, because it will change your life. I've seen places of my dreams. See, I have a fear of heights. I don't have a fear of flying. And you might say, well, what's it? Believe me, they're two different things. Because I can be on a plane, that's fine. And when I forget that I'm really high off the ground, it's fine. And by the way, I don't let it stop me from flying. I fly from here to Vegas quite often. I fly from here back home to Canada, which is across the country. I take my flights. I do. It's just always a very, very stressful situation for me. The funny thing is, if you were to sit beside me on a plane, you'd never know I was stressed. I hide it very well. But underneath, oh my God, I'm not happy. That's why I have to play video games or have to watch movies, something that distracts me from the fact that I'm flying. It is and it's funny because I was never always like that, Rob. It just kind of popped. Sometime after I turned 19, this fear of heights just kind of popped up out of nowhere, and I don't know where it came from. But
see, I love flying, John. I'm the guy that's waiting to experience an emergency water landing in the middle of the Pacific. I'm that guy.
See, and I would be happy to land down in the water because I'd be like, everybody else would be freaking out. I'm like, I don't care. We're not in the air anymore. This is great. I would totally be happy about it.
Statistically speaking, it's still the safest way to travel.
And that's right, Superman. It absolutely is. All right. And again, that's why I'm not afraid of flying. I'm just a fear of heights. All right. Oana Ho writes, it drives me nuts because Super Chat doesn't support my country. Well, then I'm glad you're able to use the tipping feature. Anyways, Carl Weathers is an underrated actor. He's often typecast as the tough guy, but I think he's got pretty good acting chops. Agree, and favorite performance of his, aside from Apollo Creed. Well, how can you not say Action Jackson?
I was going to say.
How can you not talk Carl Weathers and not talk Action Jackson? Look, I'm going to say something a little bit sacrilegious. I don't actually think Carl Weathers is all that great of an actor. But I love seeing him on screen. It doesn't matter if he's popping up in an Adam Sandler comedy or he's playing the head of a bounty hunters guild in Mandalorian, or whether he's popping up as Ghost Apollo Creed. You probably didn't know that. Sylvester Stallone has announced Ghost Apollo Creed. Force Ghost Apollo Creed will be in the next Rocky 17. I love seeing him on screen. Love seeing him on screen. But I don't think he's a great thespian.
He looks great in The Mandalorian.
He does.
I think he looks great, with his cropped hair. He's not going for that Apollo Creed fro that he had back in the 70s. He just looks cool. I really like his presence. I think he's really good in The Mandalorian. I want to see more. Him. I want to see more of him. Bring him on.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he's a bad actor. Please don't misquote me. I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I'm just, is he ever going to be nominated for an Emmy or an Academy
Maybe
Award?
Not. No. Carl Weathers is the new cowbell, John.
I need more cowbell.
Need more Carl Weathers.
All right. Next up, The Wonder One writes, save your money. I got a solution to the COPA thing. Just say fuck on every video. F you kids, go to bed. Here's the problem. You know what? It's funny because a lot of people, maybe half jokingly, but tons of people said, hey, you want to make sure the FTC and COPA always know your video's not, just drop more F-bombs. Just drop a ton of F-bombs. There you go. Here's the problem with that, though. To a very jokey solution, there's a very real problem. You drop too many F-bombs, then you get the dreaded yellow $ beside your video on YouTube, which says, we've determined that your video is not suitable for most of our advertisers. So they demonetize your video. So yeah, I could drop a lot of F-bombs to make sure that I don't get fined by the FTC because, this is clearly not for kids. F, 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 F. But then what YouTube's going to do is like, wow, you swear a lot in your videos. Yellow $ for you. And then you don't get any revenue for your video. You can't monetize your video. So it's unfortunately, Wonder One, it's not a solution. I appreciate the suggestion. I know it's probably half joking, but a lot of people seriously thought that would be a solution. But it actually creates another problem, which is just as bad. Pedram writes, hey, John, I wanted to know if you had any thoughts on the comments Bill Maher recently made on Larry King Now regarding comic book culture and how he thinks it is a dumb culture. Thanks. Here's the thing, Pedram. I'm going to bring this up now. A couple of years ago, Bill Maher said something similar on his own show. He made comments about comic book movies are stupid. To which I said, why the flying F do any of us care what Bill Maher says? Now, if Martin Scorsese says something like that, he is a prominent figure in the world of movies. Okay, we should listen to what he says. We should talk about what he said. It's relevant to us. Bill Maher, fuckface, whatever his name is, who this shit cares what he says? He is not a movie personality. He has nothing to do with the movie world whatsoever. I care less about what Bill Maher says about comic book movies than I do about Eddie the plumber who lives in Toledo. Because seriously, it's just the same thing. John, did you hear that some guy named Eddie the plumber in Toledo said he thought comic books are dumb? Why the hell would I care? Why would I care? Why is it worth talking about? It's not worth talking about. Who the F cares what Bill Maher says about comic book movies? He has nothing to do with our world. He has nothing to do with our culture. He has nothing to do with these fan circles. If it's Scorsese, if it's Eddie Murphy, if it's Handsome Hawk, if it's whoever else who are movie personalities within the movie sphere talking about a big genre in the movies, that's worth talking about. Some idiot like that making a statement, who cares? So I certainly don't care, so I have no opinion about what he says, because what he says about it is completely irrelevant and has no value. But anyway, that's my thing on it. Anything to add to that, Rob?
Well, I mean, I like Bill Maher's political commentary. I like his show somebody's doing a show about politics.
And I'm not making commentary about anything else that he does. But I'm just saying he's not a movie personality.
Yeah, it just smacks of this. It's low hanging fruit. If people are there's a prejudice against comic books. There has been forever, and Bill Maher is reinforcing an old stereotype, and I think it's beneath him, frankly.
Well, listen, Rob, right now, we got to say goodbye to you because it's past your bedtime. I know you got things you got to run and do. So listen, we will see you again tomorrow, obviously, but in the meantime, where can people follow you and your adventures online?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter and attack me with the release the Snyder Cut hashtag, because everyone else is. You can also find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, and its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
And of course, buddy, we will see you again tomorrow.
Indeed.
And I will look forward to it as always. All right, thanks a lot, Rob. And listen, guys, we still got about 20 minutes left, so let's keep right on rolling through all these live questions that you guys have sent in. The next one up comes to us from Harry Mudd, who writes, I really hope that COPPA won't kill your channel. It would be a shame if it did. Oh, I agree. I mean, look, I'm talking to lawyers later this week. I'm going to see really where I stand. There's been a whole bunch of information coming out about it. Some of it looks really scary. Some of it looks more promising. But again, I'm not going to leave it to YouTubers to tell me and to speculate about what is the actual legal recourse. And it was never, I worked in law, but this was never my field of law. So I'm going to talk to some lawyers later this week, get that figured out. But listen, one way or the other, even if in the coming months I have to announce that I'm not anticipating this, but even if in the coming months I need to ultimately announce that I'm moving the John Campea Show off of YouTube and I'm going to move to another platform, the John Campea Show will still be around. It just may not be on YouTube. It might be on another platform. But it probably won't come to that. And again, like I said, I'm hearing some more promising things. I'm going to talk to some lawyers later this week. We'll get that all figured out. But thank you for your concern, Harry. I really appreciate it. All right. Next up, John Argoat Rodriguez writes, MCU movies, MCU Disney Plus shows, Star Wars, The Mandalorian, Pixar movies, a year of Disney Plus, and eventually Galaxy's Edge. I should just start sending my checks to Bob Iger at this point. Listen, one of the things that Rob mentioned about the story of the decade is Disney under the stewardship of Bob Iger, and how Bob Iger has taken not just the overall corporation of Disney to unheard of heights, but even just specifically its movie and entertainment division under his leadership, and of course that of Alan Horn as well, who is his main general when it comes to movies and stuff like that, is just unprecedented. And you're right, it feels like I should just tell my bank, hey, every month just send $200 to Bob Iger just directly. Just save me the hassle of that. You're not wrong, John. You're not wrong about that, buddy. All right. Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, my top 10 of the decade. I haven't seen The Lighthouse, The Irishman, or Ford v Ferrari yet. Number 10, Your Name. Oh, that's nice. Number 9, Hell or High Water. God, I love that movie. Number 8, The Nice Guys. Oh, I love that movie. Number 7, Nightcrawler. I love that movie. Number 6, The Witch. I love that. A lot of people didn't like The Witch, which I don't know why. The Witch is awesome. Anyway, number 5, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Number 4, The Raid. Number 3, Paddington 2. Oh, it makes my heart happy they put Paddington in there. Number 2, Avengers 1. And number 1, Mad Max Fury Road. I don't think I've seen anybody put that as number 1. Again, nice mixture of films in there. Timbula, Spider-Man. I love so many of the movies on there. Hell or High Water, so good. And I know a lot of you still haven't seen Hell or High Water. Please do yourself a favor. Watch Hell or High Water. It is so freaking good. Your Name is another one. Nice Guys, another one a lot of people never saw. Nightcrawler, which a lot of people did see. Probably the best performance by Jake Gyllenhaal ever. The Witch is so good. Directed by the same guy who directed The Lighthouse as well. Excellent list, Timbula. I like it. Thanks for sending that in, man. Sir Dylan of Toronto, I like that, writes, hey, John, love your show. Thank you so much. I've been seeing it since 2010. Wow. I was wondering if you heard that the script for The Rise of Skywalker had been leaked on eBay. I read a story that somebody almost, like some staff member almost sold a script for it on eBay. I just saw a headline or something like that. I don't know anything more about that, but here's the thing. We've talked about this before. Some people say, how come so many leaks happen? Actually, very few leaks happen, real legitimate leaks happen. But why does it happen as often? To me, the question is, how does it not happen more often? Because now we live in an era where not only do thousands of people work on a movie, but all thousands of those people, now this, I don't have my phone here, but let's pretend this is my phone. All thousands of those people walking around are all walking around with global telecommunication audiovisual devices. The phones in their pockets. How do more leaks not happen? That's the question to me. How does it not happen more often? It's a crazy story, Dylan. I got to go read up more on it. Hugh Jackman's Body writes, do you think the terrible marketing of Warner Brothers is the reason The Nice Guys failed and never really got the money for making the sequel? As I think both Gosling and Crowe were down for a sequel. No, the marketing was great. Now, a lot of times we'll point to a movie that failed and we'll go, hey, geez, they did a terrible job marketing. The marketing for Nice Guys was wonderful. I thought they had really, really solid marketing. I thought the trailers were funny. I thought they had a lot of great humor and a lot of great action. And I personally believe that the trailers for Nice Guys sold the film very well. I thought they sold the film very well. A good, original, star-packed, again, completely original, wonderful movie, and people didn't go support it. But I got to tell you, dude, it wasn't the marketing, because the marketing did a really good job. So that one is always going to remain a mystery, Hugh Jackman. That's always going to remain a mystery. It really, really sucks, because that movie's fantastic. Anyway, Porg, love this name, Porg-Based Diet writes, do you think that by adding a baby or cute character, i.e. Baby Yoda, Porg, Baby Groot, is a cheap way of ensuring success in a new/mediocre show/movie? And do you think it hurts the overall sustainability of the show? Would have preferred Boba over Baby. Oh, I did not want Boba Fett in this. I did not want Boba in this at all. Anyway, that aside, no, I don't think so, because we've seen lots of things have cute little characters that never do anything. This is a great, forget how cute Baby Yoda is. All right. And yes, I know it's not actually Yoda. I know that, but we just call it Baby Yoda because the species doesn't even have a name yet. It is a great narrative point. This is all part of the overall narrative. The Mandalorian, an orphan himself, comes across a bounty of an orphaned or a lone child that also happens to be adorable, that is desperately sought after by gangster elements, by bounty hunters, and by former remnants of the Empire itself. And he himself, who still suffers traumatic flashbacks to becoming an orphan and being, as they call it, a foundling. And now he's come across a foundling of his own. This is narrative depth. This is great narrative. So, no, it just fits with it. And listen, if it's ever a situation, and we've seen these situations before where, look, we have no real purpose for it. Let's throw in some cute little thing. Okay, that's one thing. But when it's something that actually fits into the narrative progression, then it works. And I think it's just like anything else. Does having a big bad guy, well, sometimes it works in some stories, sometimes it doesn't. Does having a hot girl in the movie? Well, sometimes it's for a narrative purpose, sometimes it isn't. It's like any tool, though, I think, in a storyteller's belt. If the tool is used properly, it's a great thing. If it's used improperly, then it can be a bad thing. So I don't think there's any one pat answer to that. But in the terms of The Mandalorian, it is a great narrative hook. Forget how cute he is. And if he's cute and adorable, listen, if this show sucked, it wouldn't matter how cute and adorable the Baby Yoda is. Nobody would want to talk about it. But because the show's so good, we all get to talk and celebrate how cute Baby Yoda is. So that's how I kind of see it myself at any rate. Anyway, I love that username still. Porg-based diet. I love that. Avi L writes, Giovanni, a big fan since 2013. Thank you so much, man. So happy to finally get this option using the tip feature. Thank you so much for using it, Avi. And couldn't be happier at a better time as now that Frozen 2 is out. You can rank the top 5 or all 8 if you want. Elsa dresses, outfits from the movies, and shorts. Keep up the great work. F you. Screw you. Rank all 8 dresses. And by the way, don't laugh, Avi. I mean, the dresses Elsa wears is a big deal. And for no other reason, I mean, it's too bad my wife isn't here to talk about. Of course, my wife is a senior person over at Hasbro. And to talk about, listen, every time Elsa's in a new dress, hell, that's a whole new toy you can put out. That is a whole new toy you can put out. Ooh, this one, she has sequins on the right side instead of the left. It's a whole new toy. I mean, it's a big deal. But no, I say, isn't that the white dress? Also, that's all I would know. She also wears some kind of white dress. That's it. That's all I got. I know nothing else, so that's it for me. Anyway, thank you. And by the way, I like Frozen 2 very much. I think it's pretty good. All right, next up, Min writes, I know this may be a loophole, but what would happen if you just started dropping a couple of here, we're back to the same thing again, but what would start happening if you start dropping F-bombs in each of your videos, so that way you can mark it as not for kids? Just curious. I get why they had to do it, but all this really sucks for YouTubers. Again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, I mean, the problem with that apparent solution is that it creates a new problem. The new problem is, oh, there's a whole bunch of swearing in your video. yellow $ for you, not suitable for advertisers. And then my videos get demonetized. So that's the, it is a solution, but it creates a whole separate, equally as bad problem. So there's that. But thank you for trying to think of solutions for me, and I appreciate it, brother. All right. Alex Bosey writes, best Santa Claus movie story. Ooh. Why am I freezing on the name of the classic? Is it Miracle on 54th? Hold on a second. Miracle on 34th. Sorry. Miracle on 34th. I think Miracle on 34th might be my favorite. There are some really cool ones that look as what if Santa was actually evil? I mean, Goldberg was actually in a movie once where Santa Claus was actually an evil demon, and we just think he's this big, lovable, cuddly guy. He's actually a demon from hell. Anyway, but I think Miracle on 34th. I think Miracle on 34th will be mine. McDavid Deserves Better writes, maybe the rumored Michael Jackson biopic is actually... is actually Captain EO2. Returns. Francis Ford Coppola can finally reacquaint us with real cinema. I know. Come on. Let's start. Listen, I know what Francis Ford Coppola said about comic book movies and all that kind of stuff was really stupid, especially in light of the fact of some of the stuff that he has done. But come on, let's start putting that in our rear view mirror. Let's start moving past. Let's get over and let's get past what Coppola said and what Scorsese said. Let's move past it. Let's cut him some slack on this. But Captain EO2, the return of don't laugh, man. That would probably get some people out at the box office. Taylor Guerin writes, Return of the Jedi is the best Star Wars. I have spoken. I agree. I believe Return of the Jedi is the greatest Star Wars movie ever made. And it's real close with A New Hope and Empire. I mean, it's really, really close. But I put Return of the Jedi at the top, and I've explained many times why, but man, that's the one for me. Harry Mudd writes, Baby Yoda is mega adorable. I mean, that is one of the benefits of it. I mean, there's no denying that damn thing is cute, and it's got my wife cooing and awing about it all the time. Jussi Lopez writes, do you think Marvel will focus on Cyclops rather than Wolverine? No. Wolverine's cool, but Cyclops is my favorite X-Men. I think Fox mishandled him. Listen, as much as I like Fox's X-Men movies, and some better than others, obviously, one of the things, even in the X-Men movies that I've loved, like X-Men 1 and X-Men 2 and things like that, the one big flaw that always comes to mind for me about their handling of the X-Men has been how they handled Cyclops. They did Cyclops dirty, as Rob would say. They did Cyclops no justice whatsoever. And I completely agree with that. Now, do I think Disney will focus more on Cyclops than Wolverine? No, I do not. I think Wolverine is the crown jewel in that entire X-Men package. We all know it's true. Even if you don't like Wolverine, you know that's true. He is the most popular character of the X-Men stuff. Now, do I think Disney will have more of an emphasis on Cyclops than Fox had on Cyclops? Yes. I do think Disney will do Cyclops a little bit more justice. But do I think he'd become the centerpiece as opposed to Wolverine? No, I don't. So we'll have to wait and see. Who knows what's floating around in Kevin Feige's head, but I really don't think so. But I think they will do him better than Fox did standing alone. At least I hope they do, because Cyclops is one of my favorite X-Men characters as well, and I've never thought they did him justice. Anyway, next up, Mark Newman writes, my first reaction to the idea of Superman, especially by Cavill, appearing in Black Adam was excitement. But then I thought, oh no, they're just going to have him job to Black Adam. So it's dampening that idea for me. Thanks and have a great Thanksgiving. Well, Mark, I was saying that exact same thing a little bit earlier. That becomes my big fear. Because again, look, I don't mind jobbing characters to each other to help put each other's characters over. I don't mind that. But there are 3 characters you do not job. You do not job Batman. You do not job Wonder Woman. And you do not job Superman. And they have allowed Superman to be jobbed so badly on Supergirl that my fear, and you don't make Superman a second fiddle character. Now, you can argue, but John, Superman was a little bit of a second fiddle character in Batman v Superman. Okay, yeah. I'm okay with that because at least you're talking about the Holy Trinity characters. I don't mind certain members of the Holy Trinity being second fiddle once in a while to another member of the Holy Trinity. I'm okay with that. But you do not have Superman as a second fiddle character in another character's movie. And you damn well better not have Superman job to another character in another character's movie. And my big fear, Mark, I'm with you, man, is if they put him in Black Adam, it's just going to be have him play second fiddle and have him be jobbed. And then Warner Brothers is dead to me. So I don't think they're going to do it. Let's see. John S. writes, saw question about how much studio that made JW3 made. You said there hadn't been a Jurassic World 3. I'm betting it was, you know what? You were so yeah, I do remember yesterday there was a question about JW3, and I'm like, there is no Jurassic World 3. That is why I'm always asking, guys, please don't write in abbreviations. Because I'm sitting here answering like 100 questions at once. I'm thinking about switching my show, controlling my audio, when the graphics move, scrolling the questions, and I'm trying to think of all the answers at the same time. And so I don't have time to sit around and analyze each individual question. So I often ask guys, look, if you want to write an abbreviation and it's obvious, that's fine. But you just got to know if you put in an abbreviation, I might miss, because my mind is thinking about 15 different things at once. I might miss the meaning. And you know what? I think you're absolutely right. I don't even remember the specific question, but I think you're absolutely right, John. JW3, that makes much more sense being John Wick 3 than Jurassic World 3, because as I said yesterday, there is no Jurassic World 3 yet. But anyway, good observation, but a good opportunity to remind people, try not to use abbreviations because it could just cause confusion. Anyway, thanks for bringing that up, John. Appreciate it. All right, Harry Mudd writes, personally, I don't care whether a Snyder Cut exists or released or not, even if it exists. I think most people, the fact of the matter is the vast, vast majority of the average film going audience do not care if a Snyder Cut exists. I actually do care. Because I'm not going to lie, I'd be curious to see whatever, regardless of what state it's in. It's apples in the bag. It's not a watermelon, but I would still be interested. I got to admit, I'd be personally interested in seeing the apples, but I wouldn't invest money or whatever into it too. But I think you're right. I think most people in the world don't care, but there are some very loyal, diehard fans who do care. Listen, there's a lot of stuff in fandom that I care about that nobody else does, but that's what we as hardcore fans do. We care passionately about something, even if a lot of other people don't. And I think, yeah, the vast majority of the planet doesn't give two squirts of piss if a Snyder Cut exists or not. But there are some very loyal, hardcore fan bases that do. And so so I get it. Because I'm the same way with some other topics. Hollid Love writes, over under 99%, you left the game halfway through the third quarter. Oh, no, I didn't. Because, listen, I was there to cheer on the Rams because I'm in LA and I like the Rams. So I'm cheering on the Rams, as long as they're not playing the Patriots. So I'm cheering them on. But at the same time, I'm getting to watch probably the league MVP. Jackson's going to win the league MVP this year, barring something unimaginable happening. He's going to win. He's going to be the league's MVP this year. So I got to sit there and watch the team that will most likely win the Super Bowl this year. And I got to watch the league MVP. So nope, I did not leave halfway through the third quarter. Even though the team I was there to cheer on was getting absolutely hammered. Harry Mudd writes, looking forward to the next episode of The Mandalorian. Me too, buddy. It just keeps picking up pace after a great running start. It absolutely is. And you know that we're going to be talking about Mandalorian a little bit more on Dark Side, Light Side later this afternoon. Once again, that's at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Hope you guys will tune in and join us then. All right, Dim-Sum05 writes, regarding 24/7 tipping, the good, more flexibility to donate equals greater success for the John Campea Show. The selfish bad, I now can't time my donation so that your guests may hear my comment in hopes that it might spark a group conversation / reaction. Hashtag whining baby rant. Well, it just means you'll have to adjust it a little bit. I mean, it just means if you really got something you want discussed with me and whoever the guest is the next day before they need to leave, then you just need to adjust when you send in the question. Most questions are just general questions, and it doesn't matter when you send them in. But if you specifically want to get Rob on it, you just got to make sure you put in your question early enough so that Rob will still be here when he comes in. But yeah, it's a possibility that might not happen. But listen, Dim Sum, the same was true even before we had the tipping link, right? Like, how many times would we do the show when we were just using Super Chats and, hey, Rob, I want to know. It's like, well, Rob's already gone. You know what I mean? So if you want to make sure you get the guest in on it too, and it's not just a general question, you got to just make sure you get that in a little bit early. The same as it was before. That's all. Let's see. Boy Chow Sang writes, one of two. I love the Joker and love seeing movie fans such as yourself, Stuckman, Jeremy Johns, etc. give great reviews of the movie, but I also wonder what other Hollywood actors actually think of the movie, but I couldn't research because I have no other social media account. Do you know other actors' reviews on it? Thanks and have a great day. Well, here's the thing. Most actors won't give honest opinions about other movies. Usually if an actor's talking about another movie, they will talk about how great it is. Number one, because it is not your place as an actor to publicly criticize other actors, I believe. I don't think directors should crap on other directors' work. I don't believe actors should crap on other actors' work. So that's just me. And most actors, you're not going to get an honest opinion anyway out of most actors, because what happens if they need to star in a movie with that other person sometime? Or heaven help you, what if you're an actor and you're up for a big role that's already starring this other actor, but you crap talk that other actor before, so they make sure you're not in the movie with them? Like, you're hurting your future work. Plus you start crap talking another movie. Okay, well, what happens if you're up for another movie that same director is directing? That other director's going, okay, I don't want that person. They just crap talk me publicly. They trashed me publicly. I don't want them working on my movie. So you're not going to get honest opinions from them anyway. What you will almost always hear, almost always, not always, almost always, is just, oh, I love that guy's work and I love that movie. So that's really what you're going to get Boy Chow saying anyway. So there it is. Marie Seifring writes, since James Gunn's The Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey will both be rated R, we don't know that for a fact. It's being hinted at. I'm just saying they may very well end up being that. We don't know that for a fact yet. If Warner Brothers is successful with these films, do you think Disney will consider a separate distribution unit for R-rated material? There is popular demand for more than just Deadpool. Listen, Marie, I actually think they're already considering it. I think they've been considering that for a long time. Whether they do it or not, I'm not sure. Because you can do Deadpool rated R, not have it in the MCU, and release it under the Fox banner instead of the Marvel banner. That is an option we know that Bob Iger has been considering for a long time. Now, I don't know if he's going to do that or not, but that is an option. What I do know is that Bob Iger does not want R-rated material mixing in with PG material and confusing his fan base, particularly parents in his fan base. So, I think that is definitely something they have considered, Marie. I think it's something they continue to consider. And I think there's a solid 40% chance that's what they do. Not 70% chance, not 80% chance, but I would give it a solid 40% chance that that's what they do. At least that's kind of the outcome I'm sort of cheering for. All right, let's see. Smecky, I like that name, writes, if Disney loses the Die Hard franchise to the Thorpe estate because of the 35-year limit, should they sell the IP? If you can't continue the franchise or play the first 3 films on Disney Plus rated R, what's the point of keeping it? Look, because there's a couple of things here. Number one, you shouldn't make, sometimes there are reasons for doing so, but generally speaking in business, you shouldn't make forever decisions based on momentary circumstances. All right? That's just a good rule in life. You should always be very cautious about making forever decisions based on current or temporary circumstances. And these circumstances can change over time and all that kind of stuff. And I believe when you look at Disney has Marvel, and before Marvel got taken over by Disney, Marvel made some kind of forever decisions due to temporary circumstances. They were in financial trouble, they sold off all the rights to their characters, and it took them forever to get a bunch of them back, and they still don't have all of them back. So I think there's a lot of layers to the question. It's a great question, but I think there's a lot of layers to it. And I think Bob Iger is going to stand back, and who is one of the most brilliant business guys in the business. He's going to step back and take a look at that holistically, and we'll see how they all kind of work that out. Great question, though. All right, Carolina writes, well, the holidays are coming up. Time to watch my favorite Christmas movie, Die Hard. If only there was a Christmas movie called Die Hard, because Die Hard, as all sophisticated, good-looking, intelligent people know, is not a Christmas movie. Just want to throw that out there. Harry Mudd writes, Joker should remain a one-shot movie, no sequel. I kind of agree, but what is more important to me is that he stay in an isolated universe and not crossed over with other characters. And what I mean by that is I'm okay with the idea of a Joker 2. I wouldn't if I were them, but I get it. It made $1 billion. It's hard to say no. As long as you don't all of a sudden have Joker crossover with Jason Momoa's Aquaman or crossover with Robert Pattinson's Batman or anything, because that's when you undo all the good that you did. I'm okay with a sequel. I wouldn't do it myself. I think they shouldn't, but I'm okay if they do a sequel as long as Joker stays in its own isolated universe. Then I'm still kind of okay with it. Lawrence Tan writes, with RuPaul Drag Race rapidly becoming mainstream and entering its 11th season, the creation of an annual drag con and a celebrity drag race debuting in 2020, and the success of Drag Race Thailand, what do you think the future has in store for this art form? I have no idea. Now, I was very lucky and fortunate enough to work a little bit with a popular online drag show called Hey Queen. I didn't have I mean, I did a little bit of stuff with them behind the scenes, a little bit of consulting, a little bit of physical stuff in the studio, stuff like that. I mean, that's all the brainchild of other people and work other people did. But I was very lucky to be around that and work with it. And I was there when we got it sold to Netflix, when Hey Queen got actually sold and had the rights sold to Netflix, and it was great. And it is crazy. See, look, listen, and I'm not going to lie. That's not my bag. It's not my cup of tea. The drag stuff, not my cup of tea. But I was always amazed working around the people there, including Red. For those of you who know Hey Queen, Red's amazing. I loved Red. Anyway, being around such creative and passionate and just really great people who are involved in making that content and the hunger there is for that content, I think you're only going to see it grow. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think drag content is going to become the next comic book movie content. Not in the least and not at all. And again, listen, fully admit, it's just like I don't like ketchup on eggs. There's nothing wrong with ketchup on eggs. And if other people love ketchup on eggs, that's awesome. It's just not for me. That's all. The drag material isn't really for me. That's fine. But I do see it continuing to grow. Comic book popularity grow? No. But I do see it continue to grow over the next couple of years, especially with the limited amount of exposure I got to have being in that world for a while, working alongside of the Hey Queen stuff, which it's just some brilliant, wonderful people behind that. Johnny is just terrific, deeply committed to it, very passionate about it. And I do think you're going to see it grow. All right. Let's see here. Ryan Lohner writes, am I the only one who doesn't get why Superman having a mustache would be any kind of big deal? It's not like it would be anywhere near the biggest change they made to him. I don't know, man. Because you'd have to explain, why does he have a mustache, and why was that first of all, why was that the only facial hair he grew? Why is that the only facial hair he grew? Like, I think what would have been easier for them is if he had all of his facial hair. Yeah, then you don't have to do, but just a big honkin' porn stash. Yeah, that wasn't visually, that was an issue, and it's all people would just laugh about it, and there's no way to explain it. And listen, would it have been the most important thing to me in the world as a fan? No, but I get it. I get it. It was it was a ridiculous yet tricky situation that they faced, and that digital removing did not work well. Okay, Jonathan writes, hey, John. So with Joker 2 coming, well, still in theory, but yeah, we all know it's coming. And with him in an asylum, I think they should go the route of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It would be from a perspective of some other inmate seeing Joker, and the budget would be small thoughts. Nah. I don't think there's any room there for the Arthur character to continue his evolution in Arkham. I think you can start a story in Arkham, but I think he's got to get out. If we're going to see this character evolve, I think it's got to be post all that. I really do. So I think it's okay that you start there, but I don't think it's the greatest idea to have it all happen in there. You know what I'm saying? Because I just think it's too confining. It's too limiting. Because look, we already did the psychological introspective of Arthur Fleck and his eventual transformation more into the character that we recognize as Joker. But now we're there. See, that's always one of the things I've said is part of the problems about the idea of moving forward with a second Joker movie is that now we're already there. We're already at the point that he's crossed that line now. And now we need to move forward from that. That's got to be in a kind of a different way, in a kind of a different direction than what we already covered in the original Joker movie. So just having something that just takes place in Arkham from the perspective, I got to admit, it sounds like a great idea for like a 10-minute YouTube video or a extra to be added on to the Joker Blu-ray later, but I don't know that works as a premise for an overall movie because it just doesn't give the character enough room to grow, evolve, and to become something radically different than what he was in the previous film. And if he's not going to be something different than what he was in the previous film, then what's the point of doing another film? So I could see the idea there. And again, Jonathan, and by the way, that's a large super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level. I can see that being a good starting point for a Joker 2. I could see that being a great first 15 minutes of the movie, but then it would have to springboard off that and continue on in another direction. At least that's how I see it personally. Who knows? Maybe, Jonathan, that's exactly what they do and it ends up being Best Picture of the Year. Who knows? But I kind of see that as a good starting point, but not where a movie like that can just sit and stay. All right. Jay, the Oh My God ruler writes, "Hey, John, thanks for getting me through the hard times. You're my hero." Oh, thank you so much. That's really nice to say. Thank you. I had a thought. Maybe those want a Snyder cut, start a crowdfund, or the fans can just give Warner Brothers $40 million to finish it. I chip in too because I want to see it. Here's the thing, Jay. And oh, by the way, I skipped over. I'll get to your other question first. I just noticed I skipped over one of your questions. Here's the problem. I have a philosophical problem with fans giving money to a multi-billion-dollar corporation so they can make something they should be making with their own damn money. I just have a philosophical issue with that. Now, I have no problem with a John Schnepp, who is not a billionaire. When he was trying to crowdfund his movie, The Death of Superman, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, that's what crowdfunding in spirit is supposed to be for. Filmmakers, who there's no way they can make these movies on their own. I love Zach Braff. I've met Zach Braff. I like him very much. But even I had a bit of an issue that Zach Braff was crowdfunding his thing. He's like, Braff, you're a multimillionaire. Why are you getting other people to pay for your movie? I mean, I don't know. There's something about the spirit of that where let's get everybody together and we'll pay for Warner Brothers, the multi-billion-dollar company's project. I don't know. There's a philosophical issue I have with that, I guess. The other thing is this. If we're going to get movie fandom together to raise $40 million, as you're pointing out, shouldn't we be like feeding hungry kids instead of getting an irrelevant thing for something that never actually became a movie in the first place to get it completed just to meet some of our curiosity? I mean, listen, first world problems. It's all first world problems when we're talking about movies. Absolutely it is. But I mean, I don't know. I think I would have listen, I'm okay if Warner Brothers wants to put this out. I talked about it earlier on the show. Just take the Snyder cut as it exists, incomplete and everything, and just make it a bonus feature on Justice League when you put Justice League up on HBO Max. There. I think that fixes everything. I don't know. Who knows, Jay? Maybe if I think about it more, maybe I'll think completely differently of it. But right off the bat, I think no. I don't think fans should be putting up $40 million so a multi-billion-dollar company can. I don't know. Again, maybe there's some good arguments against it. Maybe even myself, if I think about it more for the next 20 minutes, maybe I'll come to a different conclusion. But I got some philosophical issues with it. Anyway, going back down to the question of yours that I accidentally skipped. Hey, John, I saw a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Made me want to say, you're my hero and you helped me in dark times. Oh, thank you, dude. I was wondering maybe Snyder cut. Wait, isn't that what I just read? Oh, it is. Oh, that's why you accidentally put it in twice. Okay, got it. No problem. Same answer as before, Jay. Anyway, thank you, dude, for sending that in. And thank you for watching the show and being a part of it. And thank you for sending in your question, man. I appreciate that, dude. I hope you have a great day. All right, next up, Casinema Reviews writes, We know there are apples in the bag and no watermelon, but what about the sunshine? Is it warm even? Good callback. Is it warm? The sunshine's warm even in the winter. That's a deep cut, Casinema. That's a deep cut going back to an old show that we did. But what about the sunshine? Is it warm even in the winter? Is this the way, and have you spoken? A nice way to loop in a whole bunch of stuff at once. Very clever. I like that. Well done. All right. Casey Thurman just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Casey. Joe Hill writes, Eternals comes out a week before Godzilla vs. Kong now. Is it laying down in front of the MCU train? That can't be a good decision financially, right? Also, now that you mention it, I need an Oscar category for Best Horror Musical. Again, bringing up the problem that Rob was raising it later. Here's the funny thing. I think it's okay to have big blockbuster movies open in the same month. I even think it's okay to have big major blockbuster films open 2 weeks apart. So there's one buffer week in between the two weekends. So you have big blockbuster movie 1, buffer weekend, big blockbuster movie number 2. What I think is dangerous is having big blockbuster movie and big blockbuster movie open back to back. That's problematic. The reality is right now, though, Joe, we don't know if anybody's going to care about Eternals. But John, nobody knew if Guardians of the Galaxy... I know. Nobody knew if anybody was going to go to Guardians of the Galaxy. And it turned out to be a big hit. That doesn't automatically mean Eternals will be a big hit. Eternals is a little more... I don't know. It's hard. It's not theoretical, but something along those lines. There's something about Eternals that's a little bit more of a question mark, I think. But it may not end up being a big hit, or maybe it is. Listen, I agree, though, in principle. If I'm the people in charge of Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong, I don't put it the immediate week after Eternals. But it might work out okay depending how big or not big Eternals is. We'll have to wait till we get closer. Maybe they move the date again. We'll have to wait and see. Excellent question, though. All right. Let's see. Second Street Marvel, I like that name, writes, watched Frozen 2, slated for 11. Trailer started at 11:01. Movie starts at 6:15 or 11:16. Pushing it. I feel the film story matured with its audience. A-. I really enjoyed it. And you know what, Second Street Marvel? You're absolutely right. That's one of the first observations I had about Frozen 2 as well, was the fact that you really feel like the movie itself grew up with its audience. And they even speak in the movie, I'm not going to spoil anything, but for those of you who've seen the movie, you know what I talk about. There are even a few moments where it feels like they're speaking directly to their audiences, that we've all grown up a little bit. We're all a little bit older now than we were when we started this adventure. And I completely agree with you, Second Street. I felt that as well. I felt like the movie kind of matured a bit as their original audience matured a little bit too. And again, it's not going to be in my top 10 favorite movies of the year, but I thought Frozen 2 was really delightful. I had a very, very good time with it, surprisingly enough. All right, Dave Morgan writes, the main issue I see with the Oscar genre question is if the third best action film is better reviewed and is a better film than, say, the number one comedy film, that I don't believe the comedy film deserves a shot at Best Picture because its category is weak. But here's the thing around that, Dave. Who cares? If a movie is the third best action film, then it ain't going to win the award anyway. Right? Then it isn't going to win the award anyway. It had its shot, and it didn't even come in second. It came in third place, and it didn't win its category. So, and if the third best action film was better than the number one rated comedy film, it doesn't matter because the comedy film isn't going to win the Best Picture award anyway. So I don't really see that as an issue. Even if the second best drama film is better than every other of the genre movies, it doesn't matter because it was still only the second best drama film, so it wasn't going to win Best Picture anyway. So that is a thing, but I just don't see that as an issue. If you weren't going to win, then you have nothing to complain about, right? And if you can't even win in your category, then you had no chance of winning the overall anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? So we come to Oscar night, and there are like 40 films. Let's say there are 7 categories. Well, let's say there are 7 categories, and they each have 5 nominees, right? So you got 35 films. 35 films that as you go into Oscar night have a shot at the overall crown of Best Picture. The first thing they got to do that night, though, is get, much like sports, they got to get out of their own division. They got to win their own category first that night, and then see if later in the night they can win the overall. So if you come in second place in your own division, if you come in second place in your own category, you got nothing to cry about because you had no shot at winning Best Picture anyway because there was already a film ahead of you, right? So ultimately, it doesn't mean anything because there are no second place awards at the Oscars. It's not like they come down to the end, they announce, and the gold medal for Best Picture goes to Shoot My Foot by Martin Scorsese. Yay! And then Martin Scorsese comes out, and it's like they put a gold medal on him. And then they go, and winning the silver medal, second best movie of the year, goes to Eat My Poop. And the director, Francis Ford Coppola, director of Eat My Poop, comes out, yay, he gets a silver medal. And winning the prize, there is none of that. There's the winner, and then there's all the rest of the losers. So if that third best action film wasn't going to win the main prize anyway, then there's nothing to complain about. They aren't going to win. So, listen, I acknowledge there would be a lot of potential problems with this whole notion of individual category winners that then go on to see who wins the best overall. There are a bunch of, but I don't see that as one of them. I honestly don't, Dave. I really, really don't. But it brings up a lot of questions, so I'm glad you brought that up. Anyway, thanks for that, Dave. All right, next up, we've got Carolina who writes, "What's up, John and or Rob still?" Yeah, Rob just slipped out. Question. I have YouTube Red, therefore, as an individual, I pay for no ads. Does this hurt your revenue or makes it no difference to the channel? Also, Die Hard is a damn Christmas movie. Oh, not at all. It is not a Christmas movie. There is nothing about Die Hard that relies on the fact that it's a Christmas time, other than the fact that there happens to be a party going on. Other than that, there is no Christmas themes in that movie. Not a Christmas movie. Anyway, stoke those debates. No, actually, it doesn't hurt my channel because my channel, here's a little bit of behind the scenes thing. When I go and look at my revenue from YouTube, I get my revenue from the ads. Then I get my revenue from super chats. But there's another ad revenue category called my YouTube Red Avenue, where I, as a creator, get a certain chunk, get a certain piece from YouTube Red. Because if you're a YouTube Red viewer and watch my programming, I get a little piece of the fee that you pay YouTube for YouTube Red. So actually, no. You being a YouTube Red member does not hurt my income because I actually get another stream of income from YouTube because of the people who watch my videos that are YouTube Red members. So you may not be getting into the ads, so I won't make ad revenue off of you. But I will still get a little something from YouTube because of the fact that you're a YouTube Red member. I get a little piece of that pie. So, nope, it doesn't hurt my channel at all. But thank you for your consideration, even thinking to ask that question. I appreciate that. Daniel Hinosa writes, in your opinion, what makes a movie pretentious? Listen, there's no formula to making something pretentious. Like, you can just tell when something is coming across as pretentious. It's like saying, what makes a movie funny? Well, you as an individual subjective audience member, you know when something is funny to you and when it's not. And it's just too deep of a thing to go into right here, Daniel. But basically, it's a case-by-case basis. There's not one formula that makes something pretentious or not. Jeffrey Hemphill writes, do you think Sasquatch... sorry, gotta jump here. Do you think Sasquatch movie could lead to an Alpha Flight movie in Phase 5 at the earliest or Phase 6? I have Alpha Flight number 1, and I think it could be great graded at 9.0 or higher. Listen, as a Canadian, of course, I've always wanted to see North Star and the Vindicator and Puck and everybody flying around as a part of Alpha Flight. Alpha Flight is a Canadian superhero-based team in Marvel, by the way, and it's awesome. Wolverine has a lot of his deep roots connected to Alpha Flight. Sadly, no, I don't think they're ever going to do an Alpha Flight movie. And by the way, this is a $50 super chat sent in. So Jeffrey, I will address this more totally in your own standalone video. So I will just say for now that I don't think they're ever going to do it. I don't think Canada is a big enough market. They go, we got to make that Canadian superhero team. I just don't think they're going to do it. That's not to say that I don't think we won't see members from Alpha Flight pop up in the future of the MCU, whether it's Sasquatch or Vindicator or Puck or North Star or whatever. I do think we will see maybe here or there, one or two of these characters pop up, but not in general. But again, Jeffrey, I will get to your own standalone video on that a little bit later today. Thank you for sending that in, man. All right. Smith70791 also sends in a huge super chat. Thank you for that. And actually, I'm not going to make an individual video on this because Smith just wanted to send in that super chat to support the channel saying, great show, guys. The John Campea Show is part of my daily routine. Geez, Smith, seriously, thank you so much for... First of all, it's always awesome when somebody just wants to support the channel and say that they like the stuff. And supporting the channel on that level, dude, that means an awful lot. That means an awful lot. Thank you so much for keeping us on, for helping us have guys like Ray and fact checker Jonathan working behind the scenes, to have Chris and Aaron be able to be on the show, and for Rob to be able to be on the show and to pay for everything that we need to pay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Smith. I don't know what else to say other than thank you. And thank you for being one of those people who likes to support the content that you enjoy. So again, I'm overwhelmed. Thank you, man. All right. Jason Lachance writes, supposedly an actor on Rise of Skywalker we talked about this a little bit earlier, left the script under his or her bed and was found by someone who was cleaning their place, and it was given to someone else who sold it. No, apparently was going to sell it on eBay. Apparently it got recovered or something like that. I haven't read the whole story. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. And I'm just surprised, again, with the amount of thousands of people that work on these things, I'm just surprised stuff like this doesn't happen more often, to be honest with you. It just surprised me it doesn't happen more often. All right. Final question of the day, guys, and then we are all wrapped up. Darth Devo Knievel writes, when John in Die Hard kills a bad guy and writes ho 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 on his shirt, that's Christmas. I disagree. Then a joke about a turkey means that movie's a Thanksgiving movie. So I disagree. Die Hard, as Bruce Willis has himself said, is not a Christmas movie. Now, it's unfortunate Rob's not here because Rob would offer a very passionate argument that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So he's not here to defend that position right now, unfortunately. But yeah, I have never considered a Christmas movie. It is not by any definition. Christmas is not a central theme to the meaning or the narrative of the movie, other than the fact that the events just so happen to take place around the Christmas season. That doesn't make it a Christmas movie to me. So not a Christmas movie. But again, there are many people who disagree, including Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, who unfortunately is not here to make the case. But anyway, guys, all right, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you guys so much for being here and being a part of the film fan community and letting me be a part of your day. Listen, don't forget, a little bit later today, guys, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, is the weekly Star Wars show we do here called Dark Side, Light Side. Make sure you guys come back and join us for that. We're going to be talking about the Emperor. We're going to be talking about Mandalorian. We're going to talk about Episode 9. We got a whole bunch of stuff we're going to be talking about. If you want to talk a little bit of Star Wars, make sure you come back and join us for Dark Side, Light Side. And listen, if you want to just come to the show and use the super chat feature to bring up more questions, you can. However, if you want to start dropping in questions using the tip feature, just put the word Star Wars question at the beginning of your question, and we'll make sure that gets addressed on Dark Side, Light Side. Okay, guys, a special thank you to all of you who did send in the live questions, because number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about. Even those of you who think Die Hard is a Christmas movie, I respect you. But on top of all that, you supported the channel while you did it, and for all that, we thank you deeply. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and of course, until next time, bye-bye.